Thanks, Craig. Finally getting off your ass for once. Waking up on time.
You lazy fuck.
Unlike some people here who are always on time and don't just ignore these alarms that are not arbitrarily set, you know. Anyway, good evening, everybody. You have found the Total War Warhammer Fantasy Podcast, renowned and feared. Joining me with my co-host, Archer King, and
Hello.
I am Trusty Pax. Who are we covering today, Archer?
Nicholas von Karstein, otherwise known as the infamous Count Noctilus,
Yes,
Captain of the Bloody Reaver.
yeah,
Among
aka Nicholas von Karstein, aka Captain of the Bloody Reaver, Admiral of the Dreadfleet. This guy's
vampire
got
badass.
vampire pirate, not just a vampire pirate, but a pirate king.
Mm-hmm. Thought Jack Sparrow was cool.
Yeah, so the germ of this idea was last week after we covered Hag Grief. Was that who we were covering?
Starflight. Yeah, Hager. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't mix up my my dark elves there.
Yeah.
But you had told me, yeah, you had told me you were watching some Pirates of the Caribbean, and I've done a bit of dabbling in the Vampire Coast. I haven't really made any long-term commitments, and yeah, I was intrigued by this idea. It was another unique campaign. It nearly killed me. I think I've put into between Vortex and Mortal Empires, I've done at least I don't know, 350 turns if you mix it all together. Yeah, I did about 150 turns one time on Mortal Empires, followed by 120, followed by 73 on the Eye of Vortex, and then followed by my last going of 131 on Eye of Vortex, and it's still not done, but I'm saying it's done because
That's it.
I am done with it, and that's not to say that this campaign wasn't fucking incredible. It's just it took me so long to figure out how to play this faction right. Like I said, this is the Dreadfleet with came with what was the DLC? The Vampire Coast?
Vampire Coast, yeah, all at once.
Yeah, all at once. And prior to this, there were a lot of NPC pirate factions. I think they still existed before before the DLC. Am I right or wrong about that?
Honestly, I was wondering that same thing myself, but I wasn't playing before Vampire Coast, so I couldn't comment. This is probably a quick Google search, but I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I think they did exist because they still had the island mechanic. So I'm wondering maybe it just wasn't a fleshed out NPC faction, or maybe maybe it was just in the works and they wanted to get a little extra money off of us once they finally finished the faction they were working on.
Yeah, and to kind of flesh out the ocean so they're not just empty space.
And they're the only vampire faction present in the Vortex campaign, not to include what is it, the followers of Nagash. I mean, they're quasi-vampiric.
Quasi.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like a Tomb King vampire hybrid, but mostly Tomb Kings.
Yeah, and obviously Vampire Coast isn't or Vampire counts aren't in Vortex at all.
And in true pirate fashion, once I finish my coffee, I'm gonna switch to grog. I was surviving off of grog most of the day, most of the night. Yeah, this Count Noctilus campaign. Let's just take a broad view of it.
Mm-hmm.
It out of all the factions of the Vampire Coast, you've got Luther Harkon. He's on the we know much about Luther Harkon. He's on the northeast side of Lustria. When we did the Hunts Marshals campaign, you're kind of you deal with him quite a bit, and depending on how RNG goes with the AI, he can turn into a very strong enemy, or he'll disappear altogether. Because their late game is where their power is at. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I just playing in Lustria a couple of times, Luther Harkin can be annoying in the early game too, just because of like raised dead and cheap units. So he can kind of spam armies, even if you're playing as like Tehena one or something. You usually have to defeat like several waves of vampires before you even actually get to like Luther himself.
Yeah, so we've never talked about the raised dead mechanic. It's a a feature that's unique to the Vampire Coast as well as the Vampire Lords of the Mortal Empires campaign.
Mhm.
Feel free to jump in and add to it. Basically, it doesn't sound if you're not I mean, I don't know why you'd be listening if you're not familiar with Total War Warhammer, but in order to field armies, you got to spend at least one turn recruiting in a territory or within the sphere of influence of your Black Ark or something like that. Whereas Raised Dead, you know, snap your fingers. You've got a horde of maybe cheap, kind of crappy units, but nonetheless, if you lose all of your chaff, your mainline infantry, which you do over and over again,
Yep.
yeah, your mainline Zambos are not very good at killing people. They're
They
really only good.
are, yeah, they're cannon fodder.
They hold people down, so you fix them, you grab them by the nose and kick them in the ass, like General Patton said, but pirate style. Uh, you lock down the enemy's front line because it takes them a while to hack through their meaty bodies and the soggy, wet, meaty bodies. And
Gross.
yeah, while they're doing that and they're contending with that, you get around them with Zambos that have pistols or muskets. Uh, Mainly, that's what you end up doing, at least in the beginning.
Yeah.
Uh, it's a different way of fighting than I think that's why it took me so long to grab a hold of this campaign. Uh, it's a different way of fighting. It's not conventional, let's say.
Okay. I'm kind of curious. I'm really curious. Just like you're kind of hyping it up for me, like how you played, because I definitely played differently, but it wasn't like a big thing for me to pick up. Like it didn't take me too long to become accustomed to it.
Well, let's the starting position of Count Noctilus. I love it. It's called the Galleon's Graveyard
Mhm.
slash the Maelstrom. I believe the names are just synonymous with each other. Uh, Count
Interchange.
Count Nicholas von Karstein, before he became Count Noctilus, uh, had enough with all the vampire backstabbing that was going on uh, over in Sylvania. He wanted to,
Politics and undead Game of Thrones things.
yeah, Game of Thrones is fun to watch, but not fun to be a part of.
Especially when you just like can't die, so you just
Yeah.
you're just locked in this battle with like several undead, like immortal characters.
So Count Noctilus just said, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." He performs a powerful necromantic ritual that transports his entire castle out into the middle of the ocean, to the Galleon's Graveyard, where it fuses itself onto the weird rocks that are in wrecks of ships, just in the almost the dead center of the Great Ocean.
Yeah.
You can go. The world is your oyster. You go north, south, east, west, wherever you want to go. That's where you can. There's not in the Vortex campaign. It pushes you to Ulthuan, and there's some pros and cons to that. But let's jump into so could you give me a few words about the raised dead mechanic, because I feel like it's powerful, and since it is something that wasn't previously in the Vortex campaign. If you didn't have Mortal Empires, I don't think you see the raised dead mechanic. Uh,
Yeah. Like
uh,
as other factions, you mean?
yeah, right. I think like if you didn't have Warhammer 1 and Mortal Empires, you would have never seen the raised dead mechanic. So you would see the AI doing it, but you wouldn't really be aware of it happening.
Yeah, and it might come across honestly as like, holy shit, like the von Karsteins just got several extra armies out of nowhere. Um, but yeah, it's can be used anywhere technically, but it has an interesting mechanic where, like, if there's a significant battle, you can recruit higher level units, and usually more so. So instead of getting like your standard like zombie gunnery mobs or like bloated corpses, you can get like depth guards. Sometimes you can get um, constructs. I don't remember seeing any like necrofexes or anything like that, but definitely some gunnery mobs with the giant crabs and stuff like that. So you can like get a decent army depending on where you do it.
Yeah, and I'd like to throw in there when you say that you on the campaign map, you don't have to fight in these major battles. You can just
Yeah,
come across wherever a major battle was fought. There's usually
exactly.
like an icon on the train. It's like a pile of bones, and just anytime you go into Raised Dead anywhere in that territory, you'll get definitely some a little bit more powerful units. There is a limit on how many can be summoned, but still, when you're on the move as Count Noctilus, there's no quick way back to the galleon's graveyard.
Yep.
Whenever you're, you know, doing your pirating, and if you're doing it the right way, you're not settling down much.
Hmm.
So you're really relying on your ship, which we talked about the Black Arcs before. There is quite a degree of customization you can kind of do on the Bloody Reaver, Count Noctilus's ship. Uh, so you can
It's sort of a step above the Black Ark because it's basically a horde faction within itself.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. I've said many times before, I just like horde factions, and this has, you can be a horde faction if you want. There's nothing saying you gotta. I mean, you just have to maintain the galleon's graveyard, which is fairly easy.
Yeah.
It's, it's totally inhospitable to anybody who lands on it, and it might take them a turn or two to even lay siege. The downside is there's no walls there. But the upside is the map there, because were you besieged at all at the Galleon's graveyard?
Once Calidor came out of nowhere and decided it was a good idea, and yeah, they didn't last very long.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of miffed that there are no walls, like considering he does have a castle there, but the terrain is pretty much in your favor because
Hmm.
all of the units in the Vampire Coast roster are aquatic, meaning if you ever see on any campaign map battles, usually if you have an island battle, there might be some sort of body of water in the middle of the map,
Hmm.
to a greater or lesser extent. And your units being aquatic means they don't get slowed down when they move through it.
Yeah,
Now,
which usually isn't a big thing, but it's mostly a defensive sort of thing with the Vampire Coast, just because you end up fighting in most of these maps.
yeah, it's nice to have. I noticed that the enemy's cavalry, I'd hit them with that mystifying miasma,
Okay, yeah,
because usually their cavalry would make at least one unit of it. One would try to flank, one would go for the center, because I'd always leave Count Noctilus exposed.
right.
And as he's charging, as the cavalry's charging in, they hit the water if they're not already in it. It's slowing them down just a little bit. They hit them with the miasma, which slows them down even more. They're almost at a walking pace, and that's when you use the gunpowder, and you can knock out a unit of cavalry pretty fairly quickly using that tactic.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, well, while we're talking about maps, how many times did you play on that one map that has like a circle of water and like two tiny cliffs on the side?
I They've only got to be like two or three island maps, I swear to God, because they started
It
to blend in together.
I played that map and then the map that has like two hills on either side and a hill in the middle.
Hmm.
Like, I don't even know how many, probably like dozens of times each. I'm
But
so sick of those maps.
there's one I can't stand. It's you get it when you fight on an island, but it doesn't look like an island map. You're basically in a depression. There's
Mhm.
kind of like a steep lip. Uh, like you can't. There's a forest on one side, a depression on the other side, and then over this hill that's kind of separating the middle of the map. That's where the enemy comes from.
Yeah.
it's just the most annoying geography because you can't set up symmetrically. And yeah, a couple of, I think at least one or two of the maps could use some improvement, but we take what we can get. They're just it's just rare because this is the faction where there's on the campaign map these islands and these shipwrecks pop up at random in the ocean, and Count Noctilus definitely, you can make good use of them early on in your campaign because you don't have to fight the battles. Some of them just offer just a strict benefit to your units or campaign, and others offer, hey, you see these vampires going ashore, do you want to go attack them while they're in the middle of like burying in treasure? And or you can wait, and steal a smaller amount of gold, but with much less risk.
Or no risk at all because you pretty much just walk up and take it.
Yeah, and I definitely, I watched somebody online who was like, in the early game, just grab the cheap, easy gold. Don't worry about fighting so much. And eventually, at least in the very beginning, I'd choose to have Noctilus wait because it's a quick, 1,000 or 1,500 gold with no losses on your end, and that's what I found difficult. I tried. I mean, I tried to fight this like a pirate, and I was struggling because I kept finding myself. I would go ashore, and I'll bring up the race attribute pirate coves. Do you want to talk about pirate coves because they're pretty essential in making money as a pirate?
It's kind of similar to the Skaven Under Empire, but not quite the same thing. Because I'm not too sure if they're discoverable.
No, they are not. I know that for a fact.
I didn't think so, but basically you can either send a hero or a lord to do it. If you send an army to do it, you have to defeat the current army or the garrison, whatever's there. And instead of taking the city, like occupying, looting it, you can establish a pirate cove, which opens up another couple of trees of building, which you can use to your advantage, either taking a percentage of the actual income of the city. So like a really rich city like Altdorf, let's say that I actually did put a pirate cove in.
Nice.
You like putting 50% in there is a good bet, or you can go with like stock money. Some of the buildings will give you extra infamy per turn. So basically, you can just kind of choose what you need, but it's another way to make money without actually conquering, which you're not really doing, at least for me, just the way I was playing Count Noctilus.
Yeah, you mentioned infamy. There's another system in here called infamy and loyalty. I think the loyalty is just referring to keeping your generals happy, but you're trying to reach a level of acclaim and be recognized as the pirate king of pirate kings, I suppose. I was unable to achieve that level of notoriety. I got pretty high up. But these pirate coves that you build them, like Archer was saying, there's I think they fall into two branches, sort of. One's like, one gives you a couple of options economically, like you can either take the 50% of the city's income, which you really need to save for your hero, the vampire captain, because if you take on the city, and try and do it the old-fashioned way by fighting the garrison or whoever's posted there, you knock down the city's level by at least one, I think, because it's kind of like sacking the city.
Yeah.
You don't get as much as sacking. You still get a fair bit, and you still get some replenishment. So it's you find yourself looking for those unsuspecting port towns. Maybe you haven't gone to war with anybody. Like that's how I ended up in the war with Hexawaddle. He took the coastline and he just had all of his armies, far away. And I mean, what is he gonna do? Chase you across the world? Which in one case in my Mortal Empires campaign, a Lithanar chased me all across the fucking map. I mean, multiple times. He was like this reoccurring boss battle.
Really? You had a bit of a different experience. Maybe you just went a different direction.
Well, I you going around the map establishing pirate coves because like we said, for the economic buildings, one gives you 50% income, which I only opted with my hero, because it's very expensive and you can only do it once every like 10 or 20 turns or so. The game kind of limits you.
Yeah,
And
with the heroes, yeah.
yeah, as far as conquering the city and choosing to establish the Pirate Cove, you can do that as many times as you want. But in doing so, you reduce the value of the city because you're usually destroying a couple buildings or downgrading the city level.
Yeah.
And the other one gives you a fixed rate of 200 gold. It gives you some research bonus and some trading bonus that are constant, as well as the infamy.
Yeah. I use the like 50% one as sort of like a long-term investment.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't doing it right away, but like after I was sort of had a decent income and a couple armies, I was like, okay, like let's set some stuff up to be rewarding later rather than like just immediate, which is very anti-pirate, I will give you. But
Well, long-term thinking is anti-pirate. Is that what you're telling me?
long-term investments.
Yeah. Well, what's it with burying treasure? I mean, are they waiting for like the price of gold to go up on the market?
Yeah, they're collecting interest on their buried treasure.
There's always a few more coins in there somehow a year later.
Yeah.
Some weird vampire accountant comes along and just, I don't know, throws the interest in there.
Is that why they're called the vampire accounts?
Oh yeah, yeah. You definitely want a vampire account doing your taxes. They've been doing it for a long time.
They know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they know what they're talking about. So also I'd like to mention under the Pirate Coves, like we said, I'm sorry I'm jumping around a little bit, but I want to have a good time doing this podcast. I was telling Archer earlier, my family got some bad news earlier in the week, and we'll talk about that later. We're not gonna take you down. That's not what this show is for. We're here to listen about Warhammer and all the
Talk about undead pirates and
yeah.
elf lords.
Yeah, our rape and pillage. That is before it was slavery. Before it was slavery, now it's rape and pillage.
I don't know if there's much raping going on. Do zombies want to rape? Is that a thing?
Well, I mean, the dead bodies didn't say yes when you bring them back from the dead. So.
Oh my god.
There's a thing about consent in here. We can.
This is going down a dark hole.
It's what is wrong with me? So one of the things I love about the Pirate Coves is I had this strategy. I called it seeding. I was seeding Ulthuan to eventually become the next Galleon's Graveyard. It's got a similar shape, and eventually I wanted that island, high elf kingdom to myself. And so what I was doing was throughout Ulthuan for the port cities, instead of putting the other than Lothern, I think that's the capital.
Lothern, yeah. Well, it's the capital of that province.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about like Ulthuan as a whole?
No, just the city of Lothern.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I right off the bat, as soon as I get a vampire captain, I invest in that city, you could say, for the 50% of the profits. And because it's pretty close by, and Tyrion is gonna do well. He always does well, at least in the beginning of his campaign.
Yeah, you can kind of guarantee. Plus, high elf economy is so good that it's gonna be worth something.
Yeah. High elves rule the world, man. They own the media.
This podcast
sponsored by the Asur. So other than that one city where I would invest in the 50% of their income, any other port city I would happen to take, because dealing with their armies can, depending on what you have, your early game units don't stand up too well against the high elves if they bring a good stack to you.
Yeah.
At least I think so.
Yeah, they outrange you. They're even like standard spearmen are gonna shred your deckhands, and early game there's just not a whole lot you can do other than rush them.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, your zombie deckhands, if their spearmen can cut through them, like I said, they're just there to get them all tangled up in their their juicy wet bodies. So as I was saying, the strategy of seeding, I was preparing the soil, and I would take these port towns all throughout Ulthuan, and there's a vampire tavern you can build, and it basically boosts the vampire corruption in that territory and the surrounding territories. And some of these provinces have multiple ports, and I would just put these little pirate taverns in each one of them, and slowly watch the the continent of Ulthuan begin to corrupt itself from the outside. It was like rotting like an apple.
You get the vampire corruption from Lothern. You get Marathi coming in and throwing her chaos corruption everywhere.
Oh my god, I had one of my Mortals Empire campaigns. She made a mad dash for Ulthuan, and she ended up inside of it, like the inner ring.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't last long, but she was like begging me for an alliance and willing to pay for it, and I accepted it. I was like, what are you doing? You've got like nothing in your, the main territory where you start, and she was just went straight for the center.
She usually goes for like Illyrian, like that sort of like inner province she usually guns for whatever reason.
I just hadn't seen that before. We know my long relationship with Marathi. So
honestly, when you started that story, I was like, he got in a fight. Like,
no. In all of my campaigns this time, we kind of maintained our distance.
Yeah.
We tried to have our thing. It didn't work out, and now we're just going about our own ways. I agree to disagree.
Yeah.
So I've been going on about the Pirate Coast too much, but there's another race attribute called Extra Powder, and I was watching. I watched a lot of Legend of Total War. One day, maybe we'll get to have him sit down for this podcast. I doubt he ever will, but it's just not his thing. But we talk campaign, buddy. Come on, talk to us about Legendary. Whatever faction you want, we'll go all day. The extra powder mechanic for there's a hero. Oh my god, it's escaping me. The Gunnery Whites. Yeah, the Gunnery Whites. Legend did a video where he's talking about the most powerful heroes, I believe, and the Gunnery White was in the top tier. I forget. Yeah, it was up there, and I never really liked it. And once he mentioned like there's an ability called More Powder, I think it's called.
Yep.
And you start with like 3 or 4. You can get an additional one, and you can use it on any missile unit or any artillery piece, and it instantly, refills maybe like I'd say easily 15%, maybe even more of what their ammunition capacity would be. Oh, are you there?
Oh yeah. That's weird. Okay. The whites, you can up it to 5, and I think there is another skill to complete it. So it's like, I think mine was about 25%. That's what it looked like to me, anyway.
Yeah, probably about 20-25%. And being able to just refill your artillery piece when you're sieging a town, it just means I would have, right as soon as I could. I never went anywhere without 3 units of mortars. Because taking a city with 3 mortars and being able to just, I just restock ammunition on each one at a time.
Yeah.
After they reach the ability recharged, and you can. I mean, it really doesn't matter what's sitting in that city. You're gonna take out quite a bit before you even approach the walls.
Yeah, I did a kind of similar thing, except that I used Queen Bess.
Oh, Queen Bess, that beautiful lady.
We're gonna put like a 5-minute segment in here just for me to like talk about Queen Bess and how much I love it.
I mean, do you want to go right into Queen Bess?
I want to go into Queen Bess.
Yeah, we can't ignore.
This is the most single important talking point. This is like me last time with Pit of Shades. I'm just like, Queen Bess is the best.
Bigger is better, and Queen Bess is the best.
It surprised me, honestly. I was like kind of speculative. I was like, okay, like an artillery piece, like it's a regiment of renown, can't be. It's gonna be good. And then I saw it fire for the first time, and I was like, oh my god. Like never mind even like best artillery piece, because there's definitely no comparison, I don't think. that I've run across, but it's probably like one of my favorite units in the game.
Just the friggin' size of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever watched History Channel back in the day when they actually showed history, but in World War II, I think the Germans were developing an artillery piece that would go on a train.
Yeah.
And if you've seen these black and white photos of this thing, it's the size of it is ridiculous, and it looks like it can fire. It can fire like up to a mile away. Its reach goes well beyond the standard mortar. I think it can fire further than a Necrofex Colossus.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it fires this big shell that explodes. It's filled with napalm, it looks like, and it just disintegrates anything that it lands on, especially if it doesn't have armor. And even if it does have armor, it doesn't even really matter that much, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I fought the Empire a lot in this campaign just because of where I went and because of the way they sort of moved on the campaign map. But one shot from them easily took out more than like probably 3/4 of the health of a swordsman or like a standard spearman unit, like easy.
That's what I mean. That's one shell.
Yeah, one shot.
And sometimes you could get even better because sometimes the AI fumbles a bit and it gets a couple units kind of like bumping into each other on their way to you.
Yeah,
and you can. It's Queen Bess is the best. When I was I want to talk matchups really quick.
Yeah.
I didn't fight the Empire except for a couple. I think there's a pirate captain I fought that had a mix of Empire and Norskin, which is really cool.
Gentleman Jenkins. Okay.
Yeah. Wow, you know the name right off the bat.
I fought him earlier today, so.
I fought them all earlier today, and I don't. Gentleman Jenkins. Yeah. So the matchup I'm talking about is Bretonia versus the Vampire Coast.
Yeah.
And that is so weighed on your side. Did you fight Bretonia at all as Noctilus? Because
I did, yeah. I'll just sort of touch on my campaign while I'm talking about it, but I kind of went up like the Eastern Strait, so between Ulthuan and Bretonia, basically. That was most of where I did a lot of my raiding. So I fought Bretonia quite a bit, but I didn't really have any like huge battles against them. Like the most I think I had was like a 20 stack of mine versus their like fully loaded garrison.
Yeah, and the thing about Bretonia is I think uniquely they have pretty strong garrisons.
Yeah,
and they tend to wall up very quickly, even their minor settlements.
They get walls automatically. That's a fact.
They do get. Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. I never.
Yeah,
that explains a lot.
Yeah, they're a bitch to try and like take a lot of territory from.
Well, except when you're the Vampire Coast and you have Queen Bess, and I would go Queen Bess and 2 units of mortars.
Okay.
To back up, and then I would have my gunnery white cycle more powder, mostly into Queen Bess, because But I might give an extra one to the. No, actually, when Queen Bess was there, she got all the extra powder. Who am I kidding?
Yeah, like mortars and carronades can fire pretty much through a standard battle. Like they've got a good amount of ammo.
Yeah, but when you're sieging, specifically in the case of Bretonia,
there
were a couple battles where if they had just charged out, I probably would have lost.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, and they just. I guess it's hard to convince the peasants to leave the safety of their walls, but when Queen Bess is just never runs out of ammunition, at least when I got my gunnery white, I think his name was Richard Sawtooth, I think, and I named him Dick Sawtooth. Yeah. And then my next gunnery white just happened to be named Dick the Slimy, or maybe that was my Morngul Haunter. I had a couple of dicks in my army.
There's posts like Reddit posts like that on Reddit all the time where it's just like Dick the Creeper.
Dick the Creeper.
Yeah, like just like nasty names that it comes up with.
Yeah, it comes up with some weird ones. I mean, I guess what they think would be vampire pirate names. Yeah,
but some of them end up being like kind of funny just because they're very normal sounding. It's like, oh, it's Tom Jeffords. Like, okay. He's this giant blue ghost. That's cool.
giant blue Morngul,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just like I named my first Morngul. I don't know if you remember Old Greg. You ever seen a video about Old Greg?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not too sure.
You ever drink Bailey's out of a shoe?
Okay, no, never mind. I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
Someone out there will get it. Uh, but what the hell was I talking about? Yeah, so Queen Bess, the Bretonnia matchup. Usually, I hate fighting Bretonnias or the you know
Bretonians.
Bretonians. Thank you.
Mhm.
Just because they're walled settlements. But when you've got this type of firepower at your disposal, I would go and seek out their settlements. And
Yeah.
that on my Mortal Empires campaign, I tried like hell to get the followers of Nagash. I think that's yeah. You
Yep.
have a diplomatic bonus with the followers of Nagash, and I was like, I'm gonna go help those guys out because they never last. And
It's kind of funny that you have a diplomatic bonus with them because you're in the Mortal Empire's like long victory conditions. You have to destroy them.
that uh, I'm reading this right? Let me make sure. Uh, uh, where am I?
With the, I don't remember seeing that to be honest.
No.
Could be wrong.
Oh, maybe I was thinking it.
It
No,
might
no,
just be
maybe.
with Vampire Coast.
No, yeah, I think I'm making that up from one of the mods that I played before.
Okay.
I was wrong, everybody. But still, I don't think they don't suffer any penalties from vampire corruption, the followers of Nagash.
Yeah.
So I was hoping he would be sort of my buffer between me and Cetra the Imperishable. And
Right.
I tried to give him so much support in the coast of Araby. I
Mhm.
was setting up my vampire taverns. I took care of I was taking care of all those crusaders, and it didn't matter what I did for the followers of Nagash. They just didn't behave at all like they wanted to survive the campaign.
Yeah,
And
they tend to do that.
even when I dealt with the dwarves for them, see that was the kind of the problem of my early campaigns that I gave up on. I
Mhm.
kept falling into the trap of wanting to play his campaign conventionally and build an empire. Uh,
Yeah.
and if you do that too early, uh, I would say the matchup, like mid game between you and the Tomb Kings, is disproportionately not in your favor. They get
Mhm.
they get really good units. Your fear and terror don't work on the majority of them, and you don't want to be fighting Cetra the Imperishable when he's got the best units he can get at his disposal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in the numbers, because he can field multiple armies, and even though you're the leader of the Dreadfleet, it's kind of just the Dreadfleet in name for most of the time, because you really it's tough to afford more than I'd say one fleet at least for a good amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah, depending on the way you're playing it, it's definitely hard to field, especially like we were talking earlier about the special admirals, which also have a horde function, which is similar to what's the same as Noctilus, except for a unique building, but they have the same horde capabilities to get troops on the move with their own buildings.
It
Um,
just takes so long to
yeah,
for their growth. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, and yeah, you can do some nifty things with that horde mechanic. But let's see. So
I
we've got
think that the actual weakness, like you're just talking about the Tomb Kings matchup,
hmm,
is that the Vampire Coast is very anti-infantry, just based on their. Um, you basically have like cannon fodder and large units.
that
Does that sound about correct?
no, yeah, and you've got ranged units. I feel that are good for
Yeah,
kind of hitting those they're anti-large in their own right. I would say if you've got some what are the the deck gunners.
yeah,
Yeah, if you get a couple of those aimed at like a dragon, they go down pretty quick.
yeah, yeah. They're armor piercing, but it's not the same. I had a similar issue. I couldn't fight the high elves when they brought a griffin or a dragon because yeah, I just couldn't deal enough damage even using a lot of guns to take them down. They're just too quick for me. I found anyway.
Yeah, well, that's definitely you're right. I think that's the worst matchup for you. I mean, you can compensate a little bit, but it depends on how many they hit you with. Like I got, there's a couple of phoenixes, a sun dragon, and I think maybe like an eagle or a hero riding an eagle, and it did get overwhelming because they'll go for your backline riflemen or your deck gunners, and
Or
they
your
don't.
Queen Bess / Mortars.
Oh, stay away from her. She's my lady. Yeah, they'll go for the back line, and that's where all your power comes from. And you're right, it is anti-infantry for the most part. Even your what do you call it? The depth guard. They're not even armor piercing. They're just
No.
anti-infantry. They at least have armor on them, but yeah, you're really relying on your rifles and your artillery and your monsters to do the most damage, I think.
Yeah. For the most part, you send out your Mongols or like some holding units and just shoot into the enemy because there isn't a whole lot else you can do with their roster.
Other than the Necrofex Colossus spam.
Yeah, which is just like large units with artillery features. So kind of the best of both worlds.
If you want to turn Warhammer into an anime, you basically get Gundam there. We mentioned Queen Bess. Let's mention the Necrofex Colossus because it's a starting unit. We're a little jumping around a bit, but the Necrofex Colossus, it's a Gundam. It's a part ship, part corpses. There's a couple riflemen hanging off of it. It's got a cannon on its hand.
Hand in quotation marks.
It's a hand cannon, but it's the size of a cannon you use to take out a tower with.
Yeah.
And it's metal. When I had an army of them marching, I just muttered the words Metal Gear under my breath. There's no other way to I don't even know how to describe if you try to go the Necrofex spam. It's very expensive, even though you've got a upkeep reduction on it. I wouldn't recommend it. It's a fool's trap. Yeah, you see these things about the Necrofex Colossus spam and how it beats anything. Yeah, it beats everything. But you know what? You can't afford another army if you want to go that. As soon as it becomes available.
Yeah, you're gonna need a lot of pirate coves.
It's a walking death machine. If you lose it in the beginning of your campaign, you're screwed because it's
rough. It's really rough.
Fortunately, I never lost it. At least in I don't think really any of my campaigns. But you get I think in my final army in the Vortex campaign that I was sitting with, I had 4 Necrofex Colossuses in my army, plus Count Noctilus gets one eventually as well. So there you go. You got him in the lead and his wingmen. And
did you use the Gallows Giant, the Regiment of Renown version?
I got it, and I put it in my secondary army. That was kind of I didn't get to see it, man.
Oh no!
It's got a flamethrower. I know it does, right?
Yeah. It has less range. Like it's not really an artillery unit. It's more of like an anti-infantry because it kind of just like walks into like groups of troops and just like flamethrowers everything around it.
Man, I gotta see that.
Yeah, it's badass. I honestly don't prefer it to like I just take like a normal Necrofex, but it's why I play Warhammer. Just like the most random cool shit. Like just a giant reanimated boat spraying fire on a bunch of people.
I mean, if I got to pilot a Necrofex Colossus, I might just take the flamethrower because it sounds kind of fun. Yeah, but their power really does come from their mobility and their range. They've got very I mean, that's the best part about them. You could have it stroll out ahead of your army, especially if the enemy isn't coming to you. Fire some volleys, fall back a little bit, turn around, fire the cannons again, keep falling back until they reach your lines. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah, you can kind of like use them as a couple of different things because they will last in melee too, even if you just like want to send them out.
Oh yeah, I love when they pick up the infantry off the ground and put them into the barrel of their gun and fire.
Yeah, it's badass.
It's like it would be far more effective to continue. Like the animations on it are great. It just swings its gun around and just discharges into the crowds of enemies, sending them
Mhm.
all flying. And yeah, like you said, they can stand up in melee very well. The only problems I had was with the long range artillery, focusing on them.
Yeah.
Because, but hey, that's what you get the invocation of Nehek for. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, and you can just, yeah, you can pretty much, even at the end of the fight, if you get some damaged ones, if you've got some winds of magic left, you can bring their, HP back almost to full. If
They can be healed pretty easily. The only downside I'd say to them is once they're in melee, like that's it. They're really hard to get out of because they're a pretty huge model and kind of clunky. So pulling them out is near impossible without like defeating everything around them.
Yeah, and if they're facing an unbreakable unit like the Slayers, it can take a while before you can get them free again. Because the Slayers are, they're anti-large, and I've never used them, so I'm not sure about the efficiency. But the ones I were fighting were gold chevroned, so they're lasting quite a while. Like they're small, little dwarves wielding axes, and
Yeah, just chopping at the wood of the
and
Necrophex's legs.
yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, it was doing a little bit of damage, but it was just I couldn't. The Colossus is too clunky to get a hold
Yeah.
of him.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. You do have a upkeep and recruitment duration bonus for the Necrophex Colossus. So
Yep.
it's definitely, and even part of the main quest, or the main quest line, it asks you to recruit a Necrophex Colossus.
Yeah.
For the Moon Dial, I believe.
Yeah. His one and only quest battle.
Yeah, his one. At least I did that. So
It's pretty easy. Like it actually comes pretty quick. I found.
I like it. I like the
Mhm.
the it's got unique terrain features. I guess it's kind of it's a scenario. I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, very easy. I mean, I had 5 Necrophex Colossus, so that would.
Yeah,
How
just
else was
based
it
on
gonna
like
end?
just based on what it makes you like the game makes you do to get the quest kind of has you set up for the whole game as a whole, so you do end up with a pretty powerful army before you can even attempt it.
Yeah, it was satisfying to get to. I mean, you have to raid as well, and that's I didn't really want to waste turns doing that because I was always trying to on the move, trying to establish more pirate coves,
Yeah.
because that's at least defending territory is pretty tough as the Dreadfleet. Uh,
Yeah.
just the amount of enemies you make. It even says as one of the faction effects, you get these war declaration missions, and the game is asking you to declare war on people. Kind of
Mhm.
like what we were talking about, what we wanted the Malice Darkblade possession mechanic to have.
Yeah.
And I actually think you get some pretty good bonuses. Usually they're campaign movement related. And since you're so far away from everything, and it's like, hey, just declare war on these guys you might not meet for a long time, and you'll get like an extra 50% campaign movement.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to say no to that, as well as, maybe a 1,500 gold that comes with it.
Yeah. Especially just the nature of Vampire Coast and the way I was playing them anyways. Even if I encounter them, chances are I can get away. And for the most part, chances are I'm never going to fight them anyway. Like, I got a mission to declare war on the Wood Elves, and I was immediately like, yes, because they're not coming out to the coast. I'm not going into their forest. So this is a win win for me.
Yeah, so sometimes you get wins like that. Sometimes it would kind of screw me over. I had it. First, I got the mission parlay for Luther Harkon's faction. It wanted me to get a non-aggression pact,
Oh,
And then as
okay.
soon as I got the non-aggression pact with him, it asked me to declare war on him. And I was like, well, I mean, Luther eventually solved that for myself and just ended the non-aggression pact a few turns later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a interesting mechanic that at least gets your campaign movement speed. Like I said, that was the biggest draw for me, because it takes so long to get anywhere,
Hmm.
and re- using the global recruitment, like who's got 4 turns to sit around waiting for rotting Prometheus?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like end game stuff like rotting leviathans, like necrophexes are all like 6 turns, and I'm just like, I'm not paying 4 grand and sitting here for 6 turns to get 1 unit.
No, which means you kind of, at least I found myself in the beginning, I was kind of circling around the Galleon's graveyard. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, granted, I was still maybe 2 or 3 turns away, but I would try to hit all the islands that would pop up around the graveyard, and I mainly stuck to those random battles, sort of in the very beginning, just
Mhm.
to get some experience. And do you have to get the harpoon in the Mortal Empires campaign?
Oh, to kill like Aminar?
Oh yeah, yeah, to kill Aminar, which I wanted to find out what happens there, but I didn't make it.
Oh, I was hoping you would know, because I only played Mortal Empires. I didn't have enough time to get to or very far into the vortex. I played like 10 turns because I watched the movie and then yeah, played a little bit, and that was about it. Um, but Aminar, for those who don't know, is like a giant worm that is supposed to be like the guardian of Ulthuan. And yeah, that's sort of the motive in the vortex campaign. Like, you're not trying to vie for the control of the vortex, it's more killing this giant sea beast.
Yeah, killing the sea beast and then reviving it using your necromantic powers.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and all throughout the Vortex campaign, randomly it attacks coastal cities. You know,
Mhm.
it can attack the high elves. It can attack anybody,
Mhm.
and it does damage to the buildings. I don't know if I ever really saw it do damage to units, but it definitely screws up their buildings.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I was pretty lucky. I never touched anything I owned. It was all sort of away from me.
mm. well, well, it's got a lot to choose from, and but yeah, I don't think it ever hits the Galleon's graveyard. Don't quote me on that because that is just one settlement out of many.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, maybe I'll finish that campaign. Honestly, I'm kind of burnt out. I've been playing, I've been playing since I don't know 4 in the morning. I only got a
Yeah.
couple hours of sleep because I
Mhm.
didn't get that much time to play yesterday, and I I just I'm done with the Vampire Coast for now. I gotta say that. As much as I
Wait,
want to, as much as I want to find out what happens when you summon the Leviathan after you kill it, uh, I yeah, I'm all
yeah,
set.
300 turns is quite a bit.
But it seems standard though. I mean, you're kind of a horde faction. You almost feel like it's cool because you feel like you're on the outside of everything that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, like you mentioned earlier, building these pirate coves, the enemy will never discover it. You only lose it if the city gets raised,
Mhm.
and it kind of encourages you not to settle down, at least for a long time. And like I
Yeah.
said, that was one of my mistakes. I kept settling down too early and started to, try and take Ulthuan with low-level armies, and you really got to get up to the high-tier units before you can really think about standing up to army after army of high elves or tomb kings.
Yeah. Yeah, like the roster just isn't designed to go head to head, essentially.
No, you got to look for those opportunities. Like if I saw the AI would go on forced march to try and protect their city, and if it had walls, I was just so happy because I would just sit back, let Queen Bess and the mortars do their work, and just have the Necrophects Colossus move in
Yeah.
with the Morn ghouls to sort of mop up. It was a great system. I loved it when this is the only faction where I'm like, oh, they're hiding inside their city. Awesome. It works for me. I'll take out their towers in like 3 seconds. I got
Yeah.
5 Necrofex Colossus.
You're like, oh, sweet, more targets for Queen Bess.
Exactly. I mean, they'll take out a whole unit of archers once it lands on the walls. Perfect.
Yeah, pretty easily. Or just destroy the troops behind them and never actually breach the walls.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. I think I've had some cities break before I even attack the walls.
Yep, it happened with some Bretonian cities or like small towns, just because their peasant mobs are really low leadership, and you just kind of fire a few shots into them, and they're just like, yeah, I'm not into this.
Yeah, some of those high elf units were tough to do that. There'd be like 4 archers left in a unit, and they'd still be, they'd be wavering, but they'd still be there, shooting at me.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many times I swore at Lothern Seaguard because I was just like trying to get in range or trying to outgun them with something that just can't really. So you can't get into a range battle with them for sure.
So that pretty much covers it for the. We didn't mention the one of the starting units we mentioned was the Necrofex Colossus. We went on about that. The Depth Guard is also kind of an elite unit. It's armored, anti-infantry, and aquatic like everything else. Surprisingly, like we said, just the type of faction this is, it's not armor piercing. So even though it seems like it would have all the qualities to be armor piercing, you really don't want to be sending it up against, I feel like you try to avoid elite units. Like the Depth Guard would be on my far flanks to kind of get behind the enemy. They're really cool units. They're like, I think they're actually other vampires.
Yeah, they're undead. Because Invocation of Nehek works.
Yeah, they're definitely undead. I think I read in the description they're just vampire. They've been given the blood kiss as well, so they're they're not your average zombie. They are vampires.
They're not just sort of like zombie walking around the battlefield.
Yeah, they got regeneration and frenzy. Great qualities. Just because they sort of regenerate on their own if they're in a good matchup. They'll keep regenerating as long as they're fighting.
Yeah, which really helps actually, because I think their big weakness is their low model count.
Yeah, that's kind of put me off about them when I was trying to figure out how to use them.
Yeah, I was bringing like 2 to 3 and using them to sort of mop up damage infantry. Like I usually had like a gun line that things would sort of just walk into, and once they were sort of softened up, Depth Guard went in there, because having 45 versus like 70, which is usually like your infantry number, is pretty rough. So you have to kind of even the odds first.
Yeah, it may not sound like much, but if you try it in game and you're not really prepared for it, it seems like there's not enough of them. And especially just that one unit you start with in the game, you're not getting any more for a little while of the Depth Guard. So you want to keep it alive. It's a good bodyguard for I would say Count Noctilus, because they can do some damage to heroes as well. They're especially if you hit them with the invocation into heck, if they just happen to be standing around when you overcast it. But
because it resurrects models, it's invocation of the heck is really, really useful.
Oh yeah. And so yeah, the Depth Guard are difficult. It was difficult finding a place at first, but I pretty much did the same as you. I'd have them hang back, let the I would always have a front line of like the Pistolier gunnery mob.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they would fall back behind the just the regular zombies as soon as they got into range, and then my Depth Guard would kind of sweep around or look for targets of opportunity, I'd say, because getting the pirate gunnery mobs can fire on the move, and it's pretty useful, for when you're making those wide flanks, because they'll start firing before they're set up. Like sometimes the game kind of fucks you. Like you tell your archers or your riflemen to like stand in a line, and it's like there's like one model that's just having a hard time getting in place, and they just will not start firing until
Yeah.
everybody's in place. But
I mean, they're zombies. They're kind of in loose formation, but yeah, I noticed that too. It's really hard to get them to not like bunch up.
But you know the gunnery mod, the lowest, you know the
The
lowest tier.
pistolier, yeah.
Yeah, they'll start firing as soon as they have an opportunity. So you can
Yeah.
kind of, you know, at the end of the battle, you can have them chase after the enemy for a bit, and they'll keep shooting into their backs. And like I said before, if you're fighting them on a map that has some water and the enemy is not aquatic, having those guys lined up in front can be pretty. It can be devastating to the early game units because you know they get bogged down in the water, and your units can definitely. You know, you're playing to your advantages when you and being the pirate faction, you really need to play to all of your strengths. You need to avoid all the weaknesses of your faction because I feel like there are many. And yeah.
Yeah, you really have like one or two strengths, I guess, which is excessive range. Like your missile infantry is really good all the way up, and then large units.
Yeah. Although we'll get into I definitely want to talk about the other units at some point. So tell me, so like I was saying, I kept starting over with Count Noctilus. I was trying to play him as any other faction, and I kept getting suckered into trying to conquer land.
Yeah.
Did you fall into this trap, or maybe it wasn't a trap for you? Describe to me how you
How I
kind of
played
went
it?
through. Yeah, you know, at least in the very beginning.
Like I kind of had that thought in the beginning. Going in, I was like, I don't want to just take territory, because with Malice, playing last time, that was what I did, like on two fronts. So I was just like, I just want to like make money and be a pirate. So I tried to avoid that whole like suckering, like wanting to just take territory and get money and look at my pink section of the map. So I went in with the mindset that I wasn't going to do that. So in the beginning, I kind of fell back a little bit, because usually like the AI Dreadfleet likes to go up to Calidor and raid there, because that's who they're automatically at war with in the beginning. And I didn't feel like doing that because it's like you said, the movement range on the campaign map is really low in the beginning. So getting up there takes a bunch of turns. You have a low level army. They've got lots of time to prepare, so you pretty much lose all your advantage. So what I did in the beginning was pick a fight with Luther Harkin. Actually, more specifically, I took Poxmarsh from the Mutineers that are like the northeastern sort of section of the Vampire Coast there, and so consolidated that area. And then I had the Galleon's Graveyard, obviously, and
So you did take some land.
I did, yeah. Like endgame, I ended up with the whole Vampire Coast and then the Volcano Islands, like where Teclis starts. I'll talk about that later because it was out of necessity. But it, yeah, I kind of ended up in a war with Luther Harkin for the first, 40 or 50 turns, just because we were both kind of doing the same thing, like taking a shot at each other, fall back, take a shot. And the other thing was that Gorok didn't like me very much. So he was gunning for me. Tehenowin and I were kind of chill, but for the most part, I was fighting Luther Harkin. And eventually, I took like the whole of Vampire Coast. And I wanted to start raiding, but from there, it got kind of messy.
Yeah, being Vampire Coast, fighting other Vampire Coast, I didn't enjoy that matchup that much. It always felt like kind of like I would lose too many units. I don't know how you found it. Just seems like a slog. Like you guys are just beating the shit out of each other
Yeah,
for
it's just
several turns.
yeah,
And
you're just like, oh, I raised like 3 gunnery mobs, like shoot at like you just like take a shot at them. And yeah, and it just goes back and forth on like who can raise the dead the most, and like meanwhile you're making good raise dead sites.
yeah, there's a video making fun of mages in RPGs. It's like these two guys just chugging potions and casting spells at each other over and
Yeah.
over again. And in this case, it's just two master necromancers just, summoning. Oh, you took out all these units. Well, have some more then.
Yeah, you just like raised up what I just killed again, and it comes back at me. So yeah, it's definitely a slog, and it's not even like that fun. Just because it's the same units like going against each other, trying to do like the same thing. So it's in the end, it's who has the most guns.
Yeah, you can't really exploit any weaknesses since like the main way you play is, especially if you can only afford one army, you don't have much variety in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the necrofex basically carried me to victory.
Yeah, love that guy.
Necrofex and the man himself, Count Noctilus.
Yeah, Count Noctilus is no slouch either. He's pretty good in melee.
He's a really good lord.
That's what I meant. Like when I was talking about how he's kind of like a boss character.
Yeah.
Like there could be like a small campaign where he could be, I think, the main villain. Like to me he just looks cooler than Luther Harkon. I mean, he looks like what's his name from the Pirates of the Caribbean? Davy Jones.
Okay, yeah.
He's got that vibe going on. He's got all the stuff growing on him, and he's got he's carrying a halberd, which is I like those weapons. And the spells, he's got spells. He's got Pit of Shades, even though I never unlocked it for him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he's got Shadow and Vampire.
Yeah, he's got a mix, and actually he has a deep spell as well with the ability to summon deckhands and eventually gunnery mobs.
Yeah, so you can spec him out in a variety of different ways. You can go, make him as an individual stronger. I mean, I focused on his, his army and, the blue tree, essentially. Just to bring the upkeep down as fast as possible.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, he's a great lord. And then his mount is the Necrofex Colossus. So even if you haven't unlocked them yet, once he gets to, I think, level 20 or 18.
Yeah, 18 or 20.
Yeah, now you've got 2 Necrofex Colossus. And once you have 2, you might as well have 3. So usually about by that time, you're pretty close to unlocking, the ability to recruit them. Still, yeah.
Plus, I feel like he takes all the best spells from his like respective schools, because he does have like deeps, the vampire and the shadow. So like he pretty much loses all the buff sort of spells, and he just has like Wind of Death and Pit of Shades, and then obviously the raising with Invocation of Nahek. So he's got like healing, he's got a good vortex spell, and then Wind of Death, which is probably one of the best spells in the game.
Yeah, definitely even better than Flaming Head.
Oh yeah. No, it's kind of fun. Like when we were talking about sieges earlier, you pretty much just shoot in with the Queen Bess. Like the line that they make afterward, you just send a Wind of Death down, and that's pretty much it for their entire garrison.
Yeah, unfortunately I never went down far enough down the tree for him to unlock his spells. I was definitely working on it towards the end. It's just unfortunate because he's got other attributes that you need to unlock to improve your army.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
the level 40 definitely holds him back a lot.
Yeah, I hate that level 40 cap.
I didn't even notice it this time. Most of the time I get to level 40, I'm like, okay, like that's it for that guy. Like I kind of knew what I wanted, but I got really excited with Noctilus, so he ended up kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I I wish more lords had that type of customization, because as you pointed out, he's got all these amazing spells, but he's also got great buffs and abilities for the rest of
Yeah.
his army. So it's really there's no bad option to take with him, really.
Yeah. Yeah, you can turn him into like an absolute beast in melee. You make him like a really good caster. You can boost the army like crazy, specifically the necrophexes.
Hmm. So you said it was getting messy after you took on Luther Harkon.
Yep.
You're dealing with Gorok, and see, that was the problem. I kept getting bogged down.
hmm
Like the first time, my first Mortal Empires campaign, I went to Araby in the Southlands, and I was taking on the Bretonnians,
hmm
and I got suckered in. I was like, this
Yeah.
is too easy, and I started taking territory. But the problem is Cetra the Imperishable. You know, he I could beat him, but he was just doing such damage to even my better units that I could not. Like I said, you can't go all the way back to the Galleon's graveyard to get some more depth guard if you lose
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you can raise dead for him, but maybe not. And there's only so many times where I'm willing to lose, those great units in battle time after time, because Cetra, once he gets a hold of his area, he'll send multiple stacks at you.
Yeah.
And now Count Noctilus is trapped, because you got to deal with those armies if you want to hold on to your properties. And it takes away from the pirate experience. And that was kind of when I decided to start over, because it was like turn 100 and I was still just fighting the Tomb Kings.
Okay.
Like I said, the matchup was not good. I couldn't. There was no. I don't think I had any decisive victories. I would have close or Pyrrhic, and it was just. It just got frustrating, and it kind of sucked the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Just because they can be so aggressive. They get some great large units that are fast. That you Shopti are too
hmm
quick for you to take out.
Yeah. And you're playing on their turf. Like you're a bunch of aquatic undead pirates in the middle of the desert, wondering what you're doing there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's suitable climate, so there's just no water, like you said.
Yeah.
Why would they be fighting in the desert? And that's what I was asking myself. I was like, whatever possessed me to come out this far and have to deal with this? Because you know, uh, you really want to stick to expanding your pirate coves in the beginning. That's going to be my advice to everybody. Stick to before you take territory. Just strictly get the coves in to get that extra income, and don't even consider settling down for, I'd say, like 50 turns or so. But that's just me. I mean,
hmm Yeah, I kind of did. Yeah, the raiding is definitely the fun part, like going and establishing coves and not seeing the world, but just kind of like going around fucking with people and just like taking a shot at them here and screwing off and going to do something else is it makes the campaign really fun.
I mean, you do kind of see the world, because I mean, like you mentioned in your Malice campaign how you fought almost every single type of army. I
hmm
I I really did here too. I mean, especially since a lot of the pirate crews, the other competing captains have, like, there's an orc one, there's a Skaven one.
hmm
Uh, but yeah, I felt like I fought from, I basically went clockwise in the Vortex map, and even the Mortal Empires map to a certain extent, clockwise from the Galleon's graveyard around Ulthuan, and just came right back again in this one, great big loop, just establishing, your underground network of vampire coves everywhere.
Great Ocean Tour 2020.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun, because I felt like I was seeing the world, kind of for the first time almost.
Yeah.
Uh, And once you start buffing up your the Bloody Reaver, you get insane campaign movement.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think it even took away the ability for me to go into the March stance, just because I had it so high. Like, I would switch to it, and it had like the most smallest of differences.
Yeah, it did the same thing to me. Like there was no point in doing it because I had so much campaign movement.
Mhm.
And part of that is like technology research.
Oh yeah, and yeah, 'cause the tech tree. We got to talk about the tech tree.
Yep.
I love it. It gives you so many options to how you want to build Like, I, I, I mean, you've got basically a tree for, I would say, you get a tree that has to do with your actual technology, like your munitions, like how much damage your mortars do, how much ammo they have.
Yeah.
Then there are other ones that you get the followers that you can embed in Noctilus's army that
Right.
give 10 leadership to everybody, uh,
Yeah.
which is pretty strong since your units, they never
None.
they never rout. Zombies never rout. They
Yeah.
do disintegrate, but an extra 10 leadership and all your crappiest units just makes them stay in that much longer.
Yeah.
Uh, Increasing your rating by 50%. Let me bring it up here. There's all these other things too.
There's a ton of banners and different army effects like banners and like lord effects. So you could pretty much pick and choose which ones you want.
I mean, I did like how right away you could get. I mean, it's very simple, but the Admiral's Astrolabes makes you immune to storm and reef attrition,
Yeah.
which lets
First
you.
tech I took.
That was I think that was the fourth one. Like I kind of went through like the first the first stage of each tree,
Yeah.
and that was the last one I took. But very useful. I mean, there were definitely some like I was saying, like when a Lithanar was chasing me across the world, I just kept dragging him through storms and through reefs. He was I was like Moby Dick, and or he was Moby Dick and I was the white whale, and he just uh, all of a sudden like 30, I'd take him out, 30 or 40 turns would go by, and then he'd pop up again, and I was just like,
Mhm.
"Just let it go, man." I I I, I I attacked one of your ports like ages ago, and you still
Mhm.
take me down. Uh, I actually mentioned that to my wife earlier. I was like, "There's this high elf, a Lithanar, and he just chases me across the entire world, much to his disadvantage. Like
Mhm.
I know he was losing territory because fortunately, when you build your pirate coves, you can still maintain sight on them.
Yeah.
And I was watching him lose like territory to the Dark Elves, but still, he kept coming. I was
He's too
like,
vengeful.
yeah, I mean that is his downfall. And
Little
she's like,
ball
well,
of hate.
she's like, it's kind of realistic if you think about it. Some people are like that, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. You know.
I mean, like, yeah, personality wise, if all the dark elves were dead, I can definitely see a Lithanar doing that.
Well, the Dark Elves are still alive. They were taking his
Yeah.
territory, and
Yeah.
but he just yeah wanted
Yeah.
a piece
Just
of
the
me.
player, when the AI just prefers to attack the player.
Yeah, but like you said, it is a Lithanar, so it makes sense thematically at least for him
Mhm.
to be so vengeful. Uh, so I briefly want to touch on the Vortex campaign really quick.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, it directs you to a place called Val's Anvil. It belongs to Calidor, uh, in the continent, the high elf homeland of Ulthuan. It's probably the closest region to you, uh,
Mhm.
uh, and it gives you a mission to take and occupy that settlement right there. It even gives you some buried treasure, right, like basically on the beach of the city.
Mhm.
You land there, you dig for treasure, and then you encamp all on the same turn. Uh, I would highly recommend against if you want to play the Vortex campaign, don't occupy that city. It begs you and it offers you this gold to occupy it. But if you settle in Ball's Anvil, you are going to be dealing with like we talked about before, a high elf army that is going to outrange you. They've got the better quality units, even though they're trash. They're still better than your army.
Mhm.
It's miserable if you just try and settle in Ulthuan right away, because you'll go, it's sooner or later Tyrion is going to declare war on you, even if you don't declare war on him, and all the high elves are going to come gunning for you, and it's too much. I That's another time when I got bogged down, and I realized I'd spent like 50 turns fighting over like one province.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not how. See, that was the problem. Like I kept having in my head to play the pirate life, but I didn't understand the pirate life. It took several failures for me to understand that I just had to let go. Like I kept seeing opportunity that wasn't there. I was like, oh, I can hold on to these cities and it's gonna be great. And it's like, no, you're a pirate.
No, no.
The only woman you need is the sea. And well, aside from Queen Bess,
Yeah.
uh,
Queen Bess and the Sea.
Queen Bess and the sea. Yes. Uh, but yeah, it tries to get you to take the fight to Ulth 1, and even Count Noctilus himself is like talking to himself on the campaign map about, getting rid of the high elves, and it's like, no, don't do that.
No.
Be free, enjoy the life on the ocean, and uh, you know, pirate coves.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we said before, it's just not a good matchup. It's not, unless you just like massive slogs where you just slowly gun through them. It's such a bad matchup. It's really hard.
At least in the beginning. Eventually, it gets really good.
Yeah, like it gets easier to an extent, but for the most part, I stayed away from them and just kept going after Bretonia and the Empire because they're much easier targets.
Even the Dark Elves to a certain extent. I think it's just because they're you don't really have much armor anyway, and really their ranged units are not as good as the High Elves. So I kind of liked fighting the Dark Elves. There's a Dark Elf army right in the beginning that gets the harpoon. What is the name of it? The Star Metal Harpoon. You get a mission to take it on very early on, and within like 4 turns, you can feasibly defeat this army of Black Elves. They get some Corsairs. They get what's their? I forget what their lowest level cavalry is.
Like the Dark Riders. They're
Yeah,
super
Dark
fast
Riders.
ones?
Yeah, they're super fast, but they really don't. They're no Empire Knights at all.
No, they're for chasing down units.
Yeah, they got some of those. They got some dark shards with shields. But if you raise a couple bloated corpses, uh, on your way there, I had some fun with bloated corpses in the beginning. They actually they helped me out. Because if you don't use them like the AI uses them, sometimes you can take out like it was kind of like that dark elf spell that lets you basically just blow up one unit.
Yeah, the Dark Conduit.
Dark Conduit. It's like Dark Conduit, except you can take out more than one unit, if you play your cards right.
Yeah.
And especially,
did you use them a lot?
I used them a lot in the beginning. I mean, they were kind of I referred to them as my trap card because they, if they've got, what is it, the sword masters of Hoeth that the High Elves had.
Yeah.
I would just get those guys bogged down in my frontline infantry, and sometimes they clump up into 2 or 3s.
Yeah, you just throw a bloated corpse in the back.
Yep, you just tuck it right into the armpit of the formation. Then, I mean, what do you care if you take out your, just your regular zombie mob?
Yeah.
That's kind of the interesting thing about playing as this faction was you get used to this idea of where, like, unlike the Hunts Marshals campaign, where I had the same swordsman from the very beginning to the very end, I legitimately could give a shit less about most of my units.
Yeah.
If I lose them all, so what? I'll just raise them back. Like the chevrons don't matter. That's one of those things I had to learn to love was chevrons don't matter on your frontline infantry.
Yeah.
Because your frontline infantry are there to die. They're there to die.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now your Prometheans and your Death Guard definitely not. But yeah, I'm usually not so detached from the lives of my my little models.
You need to play Ikit Claw.
Ikikla, yeah. I'm not sure who we should go with next, but Skaven has crossed my mind because I've been thinking of other campaigns, and I'm like, I just don't want to fight the Skaven again. And I was like, well, I could join them, Maybe.
I think you still have to fight them in the Vortex, though.
Yeah, but at least you are the Skaven,
Yeah.
I guess you got that going for you.
Yeah, you can kind of embrace it a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm not going to do my impression of the Skaven. I need more grog for that.
Yeah, I was like, should I say yes, yes? Then I was like, no.
Yes, yes. Uh,
There we go.
let's see.
Do you
So
want to talk about magic a little bit?
yeah. Can I talk about the lore of the deep? A
Sure,
little
yeah.
bit. Yeah. So let me find where's Harkon's army? Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. So I have a vampire fleet captain who is got the deep lore, which
Hmm.
like I was talking about wanting to experiment with other lores of magic, and I hope you had as much fun with this lore of magic as I did,
With
because
Lore of the Deeps.
yeah, it's pretty fun, I think.
It's it's fun, and honestly, I really do like it. It's just hard to consciously choose it when you have access to Lore of the Vampires.
No, well, I figured since I think the game, from my perspective, made it kind of easy because Noctilus has access to the best one, which is
Hmm.
Wind of Death
Yeah,
and Pit of Shades.
yeah.
So I was like, if I really want those spells, I'm just gonna spec him towards that,
Right.
And I just, yeah, I understand your the battle you have within yourself when it's vampire magic or deep magic.
Yeah,
But Van Geist's Revenge, that's where it all pays off, man. It's like a Wind of Death, but with cannons, and
yeah.
it's that I swear it might be even more powerful, man. Do you know what spell I'm talking about? Van
It's
Geist.
the like the wind spell at the end, right?
Yeah, where a giant ghost ship pops out of the ground and
Yeah.
just unleashes a broadsides any
Hmm.
unit that's in its way, and
Yeah.
they just explode, all of them. I
That's
mean,
it.
they're gone. Uh, I also really liked I her name. See, there's not since we don't have a lot of lore to go by. I kind of created my own with some of these
Mhm.
characters.
Yeah.
I'd vampire captain Courtney Deepend, uh, because she's Lore of the Deeps, and
Hmm.
I got Fog of the Damned. I found that to be a really awesome hex spell. Uh, it gives I think when you overcast it, -40 melee attack and -8 leadership to
Hmm.
this for it's a good amount of time. I guess it's only 35 seconds. It feels like
Yeah.
longer.
Enough to run an enemy though.
Yeah, because I would get, my Colossus would get surrounded, and I would drop that down because, I'd have like maybe uh, Noctilus was always out in front,
Yeah.
so I liked having him there. And you drop down a Fog of the Damned, and the enemy for that time just does not hit you. I mean, that's a quite a significant drop to melee attack.
Hmm.
If he's surrounded, that's a bunch of units that are probably good quality that are not doing very much.
Yeah.
And why not have Queen Bess drop a mortar, while Noctilus is getting surrounded? Because that was part of my strategy too, was have the Colossus and Noctilus up front, get a bunch of the enemies on them and the front line, zombie units, and then just
Hmm.
drop mortars. The friendly fire didn't really amount to much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what they're there for.
And Invocation and Nehek, just overcast that, and
Yeah, I found I
guess.
actually didn't have to overcast it that much. Like even just throwing it on a unit like does like a quarter of its health, depending, obviously. But
Yeah, I didn't always overcast it. Sometimes, as the battles are raging on, when it starts getting more chaotic, that's when I'd
mhm.
start overcasting.
Yeah,
Just get more units in there. So did you use Lure of the Deep at all? Or did you stick with the vampires?
I used Lower the Deeps just because, like I said last time we talked, like I haven't used Vampire Coast very much. This is 99% of my experience was in the just playing this Count Noctilus
Oh,
campaign.
me too. Me
Yeah,
too.
so I really wanted to try it. So I did explore it. Um, I think we can both agree that Lore of Death is pretty useless in this
Yes.
faction. Um, I really liked it, specifically Kraken's Pull, not because it's an incredible spell, but just because it's awesome to just like summon tentacles like in the middle of the battlefield.
I should have gotten it. I was trying not to overwhelm myself with the amount of spells I could cast, so I just didn't invest in it. But damn, that sounds pretty cool.
It's funny. It's like like I said, part of why I really like playing Warhammer is just like stupid shit, like tentacles coming out of the ground in a big wave and slapping away a bunch of enemy units.
Does it do any damage? Because
Yeah,
I don't see it. Oh, okay.
it does count as like a vortex spell.
Mm.
It's
See,
it's similar to Pit of Shades.
I see. I was worried it didn't do any damage. Because I don't know why. Because usually they specifically mention that they do no damage. If it's just kind of a holding spell.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, yeah, I should have gotten that. That sounds really fun.
Yeah,
I want.
it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, but
Yeah,
it slows them down too. It says
yeah,
negative, basically 50% speed, and great targets for your artillery pieces right there.
hmm and yeah. I also like the ability to summon Prometheans, which is really really nice.
Yeah, it's way more powerful than just summoning the deckhand mobs.
Yeah, which I like. I don't know how much you use them because we haven't really talked about them, but the Prometheans were some of my favorites.
I fell in love with the Prometheans, man.
Yeah.
They became like the chest of my body, my front line, because
Mhm.
especially when you get the like what's the specific one? The rotting Promethean gunnery mob,
Yeah.
like the maxed out version of that.
Right.
Having two of those with I think I got the Regiment of Renown version of it.
hmm
It's awesome. They're fantastic. I don't know what to say.
I really like them on the flanks, just
Oh.
because like I was playing against Bretonia and the Empire, so an excessive amount of cavalry was always present if I was
Mm.
fighting like a field battle. So I found they're one of the best holding units in the game. Like cavalry just kind of hits it and stops. Like there isn't some like big charge through it. Like even with anti-large infantry, the cavalry just kind of stops and gets held there. Um, so you have gunners or anti-large units, like something else, or they can just take care of it by themselves.
No, you mentioned something right there that I did discover to use was just because of the way their models work, they've got quite a bit of gaps, like big gaps between each individual model.
Yeah.
I would usually put like a deck gunner mob or some sort of ranged mob right behind them, and
hmm
especially if they got charged by cavalry, some of them would kind of filter through, and my unit behind them would actually take shots at them, not
Yeah.
counting the gunners that were riding on top of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The damage they're doing. Yeah.
it was this just this beautiful mess that was being made, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, like they don't stand up great against like if they had like a line of halberdiers or something. I was
No.
really not super into sending them into that, but like keeping them on the flanks, or if they didn't have any cavalry, like sort of surrounding them with the Prometheans is really really effective.
Hmm. Especially early on when you first unlock the Prometheans, there's really no reason to get what is it called? There's like a revived dragon ogre. Wh- I gotta figure out the unit name for it really quick.
Mm.
Uh, let's see. It's called the animated hulks.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, the monstrous infantry.
yeah, I mean they're good because they're armor piercing and anti-infantry, but they're very squishy.
hmm
And really, they're just there until you get the Prometheans.
Yeah, yeah, and I find with monstrous infantry they work really well with like infantry heavy um, factions like chaos. I think the chaos spawn works really well, or something like the rat ogres for the skaven works really well because they've got a lot of infantry and they can use that like big armor piercing infantry to like push through or flank or like deal a little bit of extra damage. But I find with the Vampire Coast, the animated Hulks just don't have a fit anywhere because you're not trying to engage where they would be super useful.
No, I mean, I kind of like them when I do siege battles. They would kind of, I would send in, my deckhands, and the animated Hulks would be, I would send them just after them, so they'd be kind of in the mix.
Mhm.
They wouldn't be the main focus of the enemy, but that's where I saw them do quite a bit of damage. That like kind of that. If I had the enemy right where I wanted them, the animated Hulks were good. But yeah, there's not. It's very difficult to find the right place for them.
Yeah.
Uh,
And in the end, I found Mournguls, as much as I didn't use them a huge amount, were just way more effective.
you mentioned Mournguls, and I I love how they look. I like that they're invisible, but I actually kind of fell in love with the Sirens.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, yeah.
they I'm a big fan of anything ethereal. Uh, they've got this thing called enthralling attacks.
Yeah.
It's I think it makes the enemy more difficult. Like it's harder for them to actually hit you. And they're a bit faster than the Morn Ghouls, which I
Yeah,
liked.
that's true.
I actually had my Morn Ghoul Haunter. He had like basically a bodyguard of 2 Sirens, and I mean he's invisible pretty much everywhere. But
Mhm.
I would usually position him in like a some patch of trees or something with the Sirens, because they're pretty fast, or at least
Yeah.
faster than the regular Morn Ghouls,
Mhm.
and they can take a lot of punishment, like just because they're ethereal and they get their enthralling attacks, I guess. And if you
Yeah.
flank somebody, I mean, they get a lot of models too. High
Yeah,
amount.
they go through things pretty quick.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't like about the Morn Ghouls, was I found that they go down actually really fast.
Yeah, they're quite squishy.
Yeah, if they get caught out or if they're in combat for too long, yeah, they don't last for very long.
I also found I stopped using them because auto resolve hates them for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, they do. I mean, auto resolve kind of hates you in general. I
Yeah.
think in this campaign,
Yes.
I mean, almost so many things I just wanted to hit auto resolve, and I was like, I got to do the same siege battle again.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many Bretonian settlements do I have to take with like no losses
Mhm.
before?
Yeah. Yeah, and for some reason, I don't know if it's like a Vampire Coast thing. I honestly don't know how it works, but I found myself playing, yeah, like way, way more battles than I usually would. Because even if I had an auto resolve that was like 80 or 90% yellow, which is where I'd usually auto resolve, it still nukes a unit for some reason.
Every time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it wouldn't make sense. It would like nuke one of my, the deckhand gunnery mob or something
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like all the damage they put out was just on this one unit for some reason.
yeah, you don't want to be auto-resolving much in this, especially early on. I mean, granted, I guess early on it doesn't matter so much because you can just, summon a bunch of, deckhands right back into your army.
Yeah.
But if you lose like the depth guard, I mean, like I said, it's difficult to find a place for them, but they're still a high tier unit, and you don't want to be wasting those high tier units that you start out with.
Mhm. Yeah, I still brought them in like my endgame armies. Not in a huge capacity, but a couple.
Yeah, I think I have I have 2 regular ones and 1 polearm depth guard.
Yeah,
Kind
which
of
is
just yeah, like he's kind of just there for the oh shit, dragon's coming.
yeah, hold the large unit pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and they do okay.
Yeah, they're alright.
Uh, let me see. Was there so what units did you do you use by the time I unlocked the rotting leviathan? I mean, if I
Mhm.
kept playing on this campaign, I have 2 in my army right now,
Yep.
along with my 5 colossi.
Mhm.
Uh, did you use them at all? Because I haven't really. I've only fought against them.
Okay. No, they're really solid actually. They're quite tanky, especially if you have anyone that can cast Invocation of Nehek just to give them a little bit of healing. I find they don't have a crazy amount of damage output, but they're similar to like a Carnosaur just in that they're pretty fast and they move around a lot, like in battle. Like they don't just sort of stand in one place like the Necrofex and just sort of smack away at things at its feet. It sort of moves through the unit, if that makes sense. It'll consistently like charge through.
Yeah, like staggering a lot of the units.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. It'll knock stuff away and disrupt their formation. So the damage output is pretty good. Like I said, they're really tanky, but they're really good to disrupt units. So they're perfect to throw in the front while you have like a gun line behind them.
Yeah,
Just to soften up their infantry.
Yeah, when you're just facing one of them, like on one of the island battles, they're always pretty easy to take down. But I think that's just because, human versus AI, I would just focus every missile unit on that one thing until it goes down.
Yeah, exactly. And with armor piercing missiles, and like 5 or 6 units, it doesn't take too long.
Well, that's what I think I failed to mention. Pretty much every ranged unit you have has armor piercing. I think.
Guns.
Yeah, don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Whenever possible, bring Queen Bess.
I was so disappointed. I just want to bring this up. I had one Queen Bess in my like Count Noctilus army, but I got one of the other they're not legendary lords, but like the other army leaders with the horde function. And I thought I could get another Queen Bess, so I did the right again, and I was so disappointed.
I did that too. I think there's a warning somewhere that says there's only one available.
Yeah, I did not heed that. I was way too excited.
I did. Well, it shouldn't even give you the option, honestly, because I did the same mistake. There can only be one.
Yeah, because if you were able to keep like it would be a doom stack if you could bring like 20 Queen Bess.
I'd like to see it, on a city, the damage it could do.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Or like, yeah, just like straight infantry, like walking towards it to see how much could actually get through.
Fire at will.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to quickly bring up too. We were mentioning the horde function very early on. I didn't really invest in any of the military recruitment options early on, except for the hull. Strangely enough, if you get the hull, it gives you a casualty replenishment rate and extra recruitment slots. And once you level that up all the way, you get to you can recruit the colossi on the move. So I kind of did, upgraded the cabin, upgraded the anchor, because the anchor improves your pirate crew growth for whatever reason.
It's a necessity.
A necessity. Just invest in it early on. It gives you more growth than the actual cabin does.
Yeah.
So kind of do it in tandem. Then I went with the hull because the replenishment's great, especially if you get the vampire captain specializing in that as well. Just to get the Necrofex Colossus because you're gonna need them. And one thing that took me a long time to figure out was if you build the military building for the cannons on your ship, you actually get the army abilities of that you can use in battle. The Zufbar 42 pounders, the Sartosa grape shot, and eventually the Norse roar, which one is a wind spell. Another one is kind of like it's like a breath attack, I would say. If anybody knows what grape shot is, it's it's actually really awesome. Did you end up using that at all?
I did not. I like upgraded them all the way, but I just was never in a situation where they where it came up because I was usually attacking.
No, you can use them if you're attacking once they're on your ship.
Yeah, but not land battles, I don't think, because I never got the option to.
Oh, you can. I feel like I definitely have. I don't know.
Huh, maybe that's weird because I know I had it, but I don't know. I could have been doing something wrong too, to be fair.
No, I mean maybe I've just been, I have been focusing a lot on coastal battles. I feel like I've definitely used them at sieges. I know that because I'd be using, your artillery. I'd drop the grape shot into maybe a unit of, sword masters of Hoeth or something in the back. But I don't know. Uh, then there's the special deck, the harpoon launcher, which gives you extra uses of that. It's also required for the Vortex campaign victory, which I have not achieved. I guess I should do it just for the achievement, but I kind of want to control Aminar, or whatever the hell that thing's name is, the Leviathan.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, you get sea shanties.
Yes.
Should I mention that? As your infamy goes up, there's kind of like this this leaderboard of you and all the other vampire or the
All
other
the pirates,
yeah, all the pirates. Who has the most infamy?
Mhm.
And once you reach a level to one of the captains that has a sea shanty verse, they kind of appear and challenge you. And it's very annoying because they tend to appear right around the galleon's graveyard and go straight to it.
Yep.
And the first time that happened, I was all the way on the other side of Ulthuan. And
Oh no.
yeah, and I mean, it was funny because they were suffering attrition while they were besieging.
Yeah.
So they never actually made the attack. They'd besiege for a little bit, take some attrition, and then they'd kind of fall back and try and get it back
Oh,
by
okay, yeah.
camping. And it just took me forever to get freaking back there.
Yeah, you're just like, wait.
Yeah. So the sea shanties, I only have the first one on my final playthrough. So I'm not sure what the oh, it does tell you what the other ones do.
Yep.
I guess they're all melee defense and reload skill.
Yeah, basically. And it just ends up being, it's like 20, 30, and then 40 once you have the final one.
Only 30 seconds. I guess that's, I don't know, it's something. That's a lot
I
of
mean,
melee defense.
yeah, like the way I used it was as soon as they were in range of like my gun line, like 6 or 7 gunnery mobs or deck gunners, whatever I had. Like as soon as they were in range of that, I just popped that down so they had like a faster firing rate until they got up close. So I just kind of used it for the reload skill more than anything, just to keep the guns firing faster. Yeah, it's not great. It's a one-time use, but I mean, it's a pretty easy battle for all 3, I found. And I mean, yeah, free upgrade.
Yeah, the only vampire captain I had a tough time with, again, there's a lot of different functions to this campaign. We got treasure maps, which we haven't even mentioned at all.
Nope.
You get every once in a while when you beat somebody, you get a treasure map that you can access in the bottom right hand corner of the screen near your diplomacy and all that. And one of your campaign movement statuses is dig for treasure because you're a pirate. And, part of being a pirate is finding treasure and digging it up. And you do get quite a bit of a reward depending, as well as infamy. So you get these maps with these little riddles, and you kind of have to. Some of them are definitely more obvious than others, and you can discard the maps if some of the locations are so far out of the way you're never going to go to them.
Yeah.
Just immediately get rid of them, and so that way maybe you can get a map that's actually somewhat feasible.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, I got a few where there was just like, go up to Negaround and dig a hole, and I was like, I'm not doing that for 1,000 gold.
Not even just in Nagaround, but like all the way on like the other side of Nagaround.
Oh yeah, we're talking like Hmong territory, like top left, northwest corner.
The fucking Hmong.
Fucking Hmong.
Yeah. So I used it. You kind of use it a bit in the beginning. At least the first treasure map you get in both Mortal Empires and Vortex is always useful. It's going to be something nearby. I think Mortal Empires, it's in the Vampire Mutineers. It's right in the vicinity of them.
Yeah.
In the Vortex, it's by the Calidor, by that Anvil city I mentioned before.
Yep.
Then you get the Pieces of 8. Like any other faction, you get Regiment of Renown units. But the cool thing about this is that they're these pieces of gold, essentially, kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean. Cursed pieces of gold that are carried by different captains, and you have to basically at least defeat them once in battle. You don't have to erase them, although you usually end up doing that. You get the coin, and now you get that that Regiment of Renown. And as we mentioned earlier, some of them are pretty cool. I haven't really seen too many of them in battle yet because it seemed like I I collected a couple, like maybe 2 in the beginning,
Mhm.
and then I just made a mad dash for them at the end. With Noctilus's army, just hunting
Yeah.
down the last of them.
Yeah. Once I was like sort of on my raiding period, it was like establishing pirate coves in rich cities and taking down other pirate lords.
Mm. Yeah, I think you get extra infamy for that too. Just whenever you run into another captain, just take them on. I mean,
Mhm.
it's good for the rep. You get a C rep to maintain.
Yeah, I don't think I had much of an issue with any of them, and I took them on pretty early game.
The toughest one I found was the dwarf one, just because the amount of the slayers were unbreakable. They had some volley guns.
Yes.
That was like the first time my colossi were ever really in danger. I looked at the health bar and I was like, oh my god, 2 of them are about to go down. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that was the only difficult one for me as well. Even though it's like a 18 out of 20, it's got some pretty heavy range. Like it's not a lot of infantry. So it's kind of a your gunnery mobs versus their like organ guns and um their what's their
iron.
flamethrower
I can't
unit?
remember. No, I mean they have iron breakers and then I forget what their flame, but they get their flamethrower units as well. And
Yeah.
those if you know anything about the undead, burn them with fire. Is that especially if you pick the ability to have regeneration on Count Noctilus, because that just makes you more susceptible to fire.
Oh yeah, it does give you that it's like 25% weakness to fire, something like that.
Yeah, that was actually like one of the first battles I almost lost Noctilus. I think I just wasn't paying attention, and that fire was doing some work on him.
Yeah. Yeah, plus you get like slayers with anti-large in there, and it's just it can get messy pretty quick.
Yeah. So overall, not very difficult to fight the other captains. I did have some trouble with the Skaven captain,
Okay, yeah. Mhm.
just because I think they had a it's a good matchup for them because they've got good artillery. They had the lasers. I forget what they're called.
The warp block Jezails or
No, the artillery piece. Lightning something.
oh, the warp lightning cannons.
Yeah, warp lightning cannons.
Yeah.
They had like 2 of those. They had a doom wheel. They had good stuff to basically counter.
Mhm.
Some storm vermin, which are obviously better than your deckhands. Uh, so I'm glad I didn't have to fight the Skaven aside from that one time. Because I could definitely see myself having some trouble up against the Skaven armies. Just
Yeah.
because, high model count, they've got good artillery for taking out my Colossi.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, they kinda do the same thing as the vampire. Garbage front line to hold and then throw warp, lightning cannons and you got, like, your Jezails and your Rattling guns, so, yeah, it's the same sort of thing, like missiles shooting into cannon fodder.
yeah, which you're really not prepared for, because you're focused on fighting elves, Empire, Bretonians, and
Yeah.
they can't really compete with you in that regard. I mean, late game Empire can definitely, you know. I didn't fight the Empire really at all,
Mhm.
so I don't know, but I mean, I could see their late game armies giving you some trouble with their rocket batteries.
Yeah, that was basically it, like, the only is that they usually tend to be pretty artillery heavy in the late game. So, even if it's not like, rocket cannons, it's like they're great cannons or their mortars are decent, so they usually bring, like, 3 or 4, and you don't have a great counter for that other than, like, Queen Bess, who has a similar range, or I found the deck droppers to be the best for that.
I never ended up going to the airborne tree, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
I don't think I ever had deck droppers. I had a Vargeist once in my Mortal Empires campaign. I think
Mhm.
it was just part of the garrison, and
Yeah.
I was so underwhelmed by the Terrorgeist. I thought it was such trash.
Yeah.
I didn't even bother going down that construction tree.
Yeah. Yeah, I recruited them because I remember fighting them as other factions, and I was like, "Holy shit, these things are crazy strong." I remember fighting, like, Luther Harkin with a doom stack of them, like, he literally just had himself on one and then 19 more,
Damn.
and I remember being like super hard to fight because they regen, like they're really fast, and like they have really good. I don't know if they're armor piercing, but they do really good damage. And I was afraid of them. So when I went into this, I was like, I want to get Necrofexes and I want to get like Terrorgeist. And then I got 2 Terrorgeist in a one army when I was sort of ready for late game, and they sucked.
Maybe it
I
was you
don't.
just didn't have enough of them, or
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Like, if they went into combat, they couldn't get out. Like once they were on the ground, you couldn't
no.
pull them out. It wasn't like a dragon or even like a mana core or something like that. Like the Terrorgeists were in there. Like they could not get out because they weren't fast enough to get away.
No, and the breath attack was just garbage.
Very underwhelming. Yeah, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
they have a breath attack, and then I was like, oh, don't use that.
It hits like one model. It'll hit that one poor swordsman in the entire
Yeah,
unit.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
very weak comparatively. Yeah, and I found even though they do have regen, it's really slow and they're pretty squishy, so I kind of stayed away from them. Also, the noises they make drive me nuts, so I couldn't take it.
I only had it that one time, so I can only imagine it's some sort of screeching
Yeah,
noise.
it's very high pitched and not a fan.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan either.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And I didn't invest in the like the flight sort of section of buildings, but I did end up getting some deck droppers from Raised Dead, and like I said, I did find them very useful to be like anti-artillery.
yeah, I was gonna say there is that use. They're great anti-artillery. Uh,
Mhm.
it never hurts to have that airborne option. Just a unit that can fly over everything, get to
Yeah,
that back line really easily. So the Vampire Coast has a great option for that. It's just, do you want to spare the units for the space in your army for that?
right.
Uh, and yeah, it's just one of the options that you can take in this faction.
Hmm.
There's a lot you can do. You're really not tied to anything.
Hmm. So you're
Um,
in your campaign right now that you sort of were happy-ish with. Wasn't the Oath 1 2 one, or was it?
I well, eventually I did settle in Val's Anvil just way later.
Yeah,
I basically went around the outside, and any coastal territory I found, I seeded with the vampire taverns to try and get that corruption going early on.
yeah,
And I think it did hold, the high elves back a little bit, because as I'm looking at it now, it's all Cult of Pleasure and Nagarond taking
mm,
probably several cities on the northwest side. So I went around the outside. In the Vortex campaign, there's a lot of coastal cities along the northern edge of the map
yeah,
that are owned by the Norscan tribes, and it's very easy to defeat them with your army. They're
yeah,
super easy.
yeah. They'll just run into you with no shields.
Yeah, I love when they charge a gun line. It's very satisfying.
Yeah,
So I was, dropping those dropping the pirate coves as I went, and as I kind of went clockwise around Ulth 1. I made friends in a military alliance with Sartosa.
okay,
I was originally planning on fighting Sartosa, but I had a couple of armies of from Tyrion and Alariel chasing after me, and sometimes when you make landfall, if you decide to make a pirate cove in a city, you don't immediately jump into the ocean.
yeah,
And because of the geography, sometimes you'll have to sack the city again if you want to get out of there.
yeah,
And I decided there wasn't time for that, or maybe I just thought the land route would be easier.
mhm.
And armies just started pouring out from everywhere, chasing after me. Like, even though I had lightning strike, I was starting to get worried. Like, maybe I'm gonna misjudge my movement speed. All it takes is one time, and you can have
Right.
3 stacks on top of you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I found Sartosa had taken basically the entire eastern side of Ulthuan, and I was like, hey, let's make an alliance.
Wow. Yeah.
And very quickly, I didn't have to offer anything. I got trade with her and stuff, and I just went through her territory as fast as possible, trying to get the hell away. Uh, it was that moment was kind of tense as I had 3 armies chasing after me.
Damn.
It was fun though. It was kind of it wasn't like something that happened in battle. It was all in the campaign map, but
Yeah.
it was kind of like, man, if I get caught by 3 armies right now, I'm done. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't take that many on. Not
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Uh, so kind of I don't know. Take me on a couple beats of what happened in your campaign. You told me about Luther
Okay.
Harkon.
Mhm.
I mean, it's kind of hard to describe because I know it's just kind of sailing around making pirate coves.
Yeah. Yeah, like I did take all of the Vampire Coast, and that's where I planned to leave it. But Teclis declared war on me pretty much as I was ending that whole like just as I was sort of taking the Blood Marsh, like that southernmost settlement in the Vampire Coast.
Mm.
And I just couldn't shake him. Like I really honestly was just wanting to go raid and like establish and like fight pirate lords. And yeah, Teclis was just being too much of a pain. Like he came and sacked the Blood Marsh, and I was like, okay, well I have to deal with this now. So that took 20 or 30 turns because he still wasn't crazy high level, but he was able to spam like Lothern Seaguard at me, which when I still had like the pistol version of the gunnery mob, pretty rough to take them on because you have to do like 2 or 3 against like one Lothern Seaguard just to take them on because they have shields, they've got better range, they I think they do better missile damage, and you literally use the like lose all your units if you lose a battle. Like there's no okay, I lost the battle, but here's half my units are still here. It's like you lose. Like that's the all of your army is gone just because of it being raised undead. So yeah, Teclis was a bit of a pain. I eventually did take the volcanic islands. I think is what the name of that region is. Is like those 2 settlements there.
It seems kind of
And
like a good spot though for the Vampire Coast to take over. You know, you get I think both those settlements have ports, right?
yeah, and the Star Tower is like a prime port, whatever. It makes more money off of the actual port building itself.
Mm.
So yeah, I wasn't like too upset. I was just like, okay, well, 20 to 30 turn inconvenience. Um, and so I kind of made a deal with Clan Pestilence. I'd made peace with Itza and the Cult of Sotek, so I wasn't too worried about the lizards. And
Interesting.
the other thing I kind of knew about from playing um, most of the campaigns in Lestria is that going into territories with high vampiric corruption with the lizardmen sucks because you take a ton of attrition and you don't have a whole lot of movement range. So I figured between that, my unsteady sort of non-aggression pact, and the right, which you can use to like bring mist onto all your own territory. I
Oh
wasn't too
yeah.
yeah, like I wasn't too worried about actually losing that. So after I had those 2 settlements, I took Noctilus and I went um, just into the Great Ocean, kind of on an adventure. Like I did, I just kind of sailed into the sunset, being like, I wonder what's next. Um, and I
You got suckered into the land battle. You wanted to take just like, the Vampire Coast, but
yeah,
because you took that, you became the big boy on the block, and Teclis,
yeah,
couldn't let that happen.
yeah.
See,
He was not a fan.
yeah, that was my problem in Araby. I took on the Bretonians up there, and I was having a good time, and Cetra saw me as a threat and wanted to take me on, and
Yeah.
it was an unintended consequence. I had no plans or intentions of going deeper into the Southlands. I was
Mhm.
just I just want a few coastal cities, and that's it. But then you just get drawn in
Yeah,
the land battle. Uh,
yeah. And in the end, I was like, they're both like both settlements in that province are ports. So I was like, yeah, it makes sense at the very
no,
least.
it definitely does. I mean,
Mhm.
with my failure was I got drawn deeper into the desert. The exact opposite of what I should have been doing.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So you sailed off into the I guess you would be heading east, so you went to the sunrise. and
Sort of northeast.
yeah.
Uh,
So then your real pirating adventuring, because you were mentioning the Empire, so I assume you got around a little bit.
a little bit. What actually kind of happened next was I ended up in a bunch of battles against like the other pirate lords because
Mm,
they kind of hang out in that sort of area between like Vampire Coast, like Araby, and then the Tillian Sea, like sort of where Ikit Claw and the Beastmen start, like that sort of section. They all kind of hang out in that like huge strait of ocean.
yeah, that seems to be their turf.
Yeah,
Occasionally one strays away, but yeah.
yeah. So I was like I had high enough level troops and I was doing okay, like had a decent amount of money because I did have several provinces. So I yeah, kind of cleaned up those. Sartosa didn't like that very much. So I was like, it's like already a pirate city. It's a one city province. So I went and took that. Um, Aranessa wasn't very happy with me. And then I kind of took Tilia as a sort of countermeasure because both the border princes and Tilia weren't too happy that I was there.
Mm.
And so yeah, ended up with a war with the border princes for quite a few turns as well in there. I ended up like beating them back and establishing a pirate cove in their capital, and
Nice.
they kind of left me alone after that. So I was able to I got some more territory, but also like start my pirating.
Mm. Well, that whole area of that coast there, where Sartosa is and
Mhm.
Tilia, it's all kind of they're all coastal cities as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, it's another province, but it's all coastal, so like I don't know, it's justifiable to me. Um, anyway, to keep going like that.
Yeah, you just fortify the cities, as you go. And I think one of my Mortal Empires campaign, I even took Skaven Blight. Uh, like I was trying to take that whole area there, and
Okay.
yeah, I ended up getting bogged down by the border princes, and there was another time when I think I was just like I said, I did two Mortal Empire campaigns up to like around 130 turns,
Yeah.
and I just I don't know. I definitely had more fun, sailing around for like the first, I don't know, 60 turns to 70 turns, just yeah, going on random adventures really.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's like,
fucking
"Oh, that city looks rich." Like
nobody's around.
yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah,
And
I didn't actually go to Skaven Blight, because the Skaven were the only people who would trade with me.
oh,
Not that I was, like, big into trading, being a pirate, but I was like, it's some income." Um, I've got a lot of stuff I gotta unload because you end up with a few resources, so,
especially
yeah.
if you own Sartosa. It's got
Yeah.
some.
Yeah, yeah, free wine and, um, yeah, I think there's something in the Vampire Coast too that I get to. But anyway, yeah, from there I pretty much um, raped and pillaged my way up, like I said, between Ulthuan and Britonia there.
Hmm. Establishing coves as you went, I imagine, or did you just conquer them?
No, like yeah, I put coves in everything I could. I ended up having to go like back through them because Negaron set a wave like in between there, so they took some of it and then Ulthuan or like Lothern at that point took it all back, and then so I had to go do it again. But like, not a huge deal when they don't really pay attention to that sort of section of Ulthuan anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. That's kind of the fun thing you have to do when you don't have like your final army is just
Mhm.
looking for those targets of opportunity was pretty fun.
Mhm.
I would just go to war with people because, like I said, Hexawaddle was where I really started getting into it because on my final game, I kind of went southwest to steal from the mutineers and the Hunts Marshals, the what is it, the colonists, the New World colonies and
Okay,
Hexawaddle,
yep.
like nobody was really protecting those port towns, and there's a bunch of them there.
Hmm.
And I sent out my vampire captain to kind of to check around, and I
Hmm.
was like, nobody is even close to here right now. And I just grabbed like 3 towns like really fast, and then I got the hell out of there. Uh, right when Mazda Monday was like ready to like throw me out, I was like, see ya.
Yeah. Actually, that was the only time I got caught was when I sort of went up to that side of Ulthuan because was sick of Silostra trying to deal with me.
Yeah, oh she man, the way she negotiates, I should say.
Yeah, it was like dealing with a moody teenager. She's like, "You want a non-aggression pact?" I was like, "No." And then she's like, "Fine, war." And I was like, "Okay." And then a couple turns later, she's like, "Can we have peace?" And I was like, "Honestly, I'm pretty over this." Like,
Well, things not going so well, Silastra, for you, huh?
yeah, yeah. So, like, I sailed up there and took the drowned, and I just raised it because I was like, "Fuck off!" Like, I don't want to deal with you.
No more.
Yeah. And I was at war with Hexawaddle already for one reason or another, probably from my like many declarations of war that went either way. Um, and they had 2 stacks that were sitting there. And the Lizardman is another um, matchup that I don't think favors Vampire Ghost very much.
Yeah, I only fought them when they were in settlements. Like I said, I managed to avoid all of their armies
Hmm.
and just snake those settlements from them. And it was easy because, they don't have really ranged units that can compete. And when
Yeah.
they're sitting behind the walls, you just keep plugging away at them.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, tell me about it because I can see how it would be difficult. Like, if especially if they've got a few beasts. Was that the problem?
Yeah, like it was like I said, it was 2 armies, so they actually had 2
Ooh,
feral Dreadsaurians.
shit.
Well, that was the big thing for me too. I was well, like shit, because I was pretty confident. Um, like it was the feral Dreadsaurians, and then they also had the um ancient Stegodons with the engine of the gods.
Mm.
So the Dreadsaurian was, even though I had like armor piercing missiles, it's going to take a hell of a lot to do that. And even if I take it down before it even reaches me, I've got like a whole line of Saurus that I haven't done any damage to, and not a whole lot that can keep up with it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, because like large units do okay, like against like Saurus spears, even though they're anti-large. But like I said, and like we talked about in the Marcus campaign, they have super high leadership, so you have to like deal a lot of damage. And when you don't have a whole lot of firepower, or they like have taken the terrain to their advantage, because with guns you do have to shoot in a straight line, it's like you lose all sense of like you lose your advantage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was you mentioned a kind of a choice that I always faced when in certain battles is you can either do a lot of damage to like one unit or you can do, I'd say maybe moderate damage to several units.
Yeah.
Like you said, your choice between do I fire at the Saurus and actually do, quite a bit of damage because it might
Hmm.
go through the Saurus into a unit behind them.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to take on a Dreadsaurian, it's like, well, every unit is now, yeah, just focused on that,
Yeah.
and the rest of their units are, as we've talked about, they're playing to your disadvantages,
Hmm.
which is getting into the melee, and they've got, you know, they've got better leadership than you, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, your units will fight until they disintegrate, but they will disintegrate. And if we kind of passed by it. The tough thing about the vampires is if you lose a battle, everybody's gone.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
there's no survivors that replenish. There's nothing. Everybody,
Mhm.
that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, as soon as a feral Dreadsaurian, like, hits your line, you're pretty much crumbling.
Oh,
So,
very fast. I can
yeah,
imagine.
like, it's not even that my units were like that much worse. It's just you start to lose health as soon as your leadership gets too low. So that was a big part of it too, is just they were able to hit me so hard that I couldn't like outlast them at all, because it's pretty quick.
Yeah, you're really designed to win in the long drawn out fight where both their units are getting tired and exhausted.
Yeah.
But when they do that much damage in one go, like fighting
Mhm.
other Vampire Coast armies, I found if Queen Bess got a good hit on any single unit, like it could be the polearm zombies or just a gunnery mob, they
Mhm.
would start falling apart like
Yeah,
after
exactly.
one shot, and I would
Yeah.
just like, okay, I'll move on to the next one because
Yeah.
all their morale's gone. They're starting to
Yeah.
fall apart. Why even waste any more ammo on it?
And even if they recover, it's like they've lost 3/4 of their health between the Queen Bess and the actual crumbling damage.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. I feel like it might have went right by me. But so how did that work out? Fighting those two armies, were you able to pull it off, or?
No, I was not. It came pretty close. I had like 3 necrofexes left and a rotting leviathan, and
Ooh.
the everything was sort of like centered around the leviathan. Like they had some skirmish, they had some skink skirmishers and some Saurus warriors still left. Most of their large units I was able to take out eventually. But that was the other thing, was the ancient Steganons with the engine of the gods was able to like do a huge amount of damage, putting like a wind spell that they have like right through my line.
Uh,
Um, so yeah, and then yeah, it ended up being them having a bunch of foot troops against my rotting leviathan, which was like sort of crumbling while the necrofexes spent the last of their ammo like shooting into this blob around it. Um, and I was really close, but my general, who was one of like the immortal lords you unlock with the infamy, he was like fighting 2 Bastiladons by himself on his crab.
Nice.
And so he went down, and then everything else just kind of crumbled. Like I said, if I was able to like outlast them in that situation, like if the crumbling mechanic wasn't there, it might have been on my side, because I might have been able to like keep shooting. But as soon as he went, the leadership was just, that was the nail in the coffin pretty much. So everything kind of just crumbled.
Yeah, if you lose your lord in a vampire army, maybe there's other people who uh, know better, but it seems like it's game over. It usually is
It's a big
anyway.
hit, yeah.
Yeah, but your units start falling apart. I mean, granted, routing you could argue is the same thing, but it feels more devastating
Hmm.
because they all just kind of fall apart all at once. I guess because
Yeah.
they're bound together by the magic of the Lord, so
Hmm.
I guess it makes
Yeah,
sense.
and they've already been in battle. They're tired. Like, yeah, there's just not a whole lot left that was keeping them there, and that's just the one last thing. I did enough damage that they retreated, and they didn't like come after me at all. But it's not like they were doing that before. But yeah, it
Still
was,
doesn't feel good.
yeah, it was lots of fun though. Like I was like,
Uh,
you know what? Not even mad about it. Like I pushed too far. It's fine.
It does sound pretty epic, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. It was the only like actually like large scale battle I think I fought where I was like, holy shit, like I am outmatched.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of avoided battles like that. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of your pirate. You're trying to hit weak targets, not
yeah,
strong
exactly.
targets. Uh, I think that the toughest battle I had was with the Tomb Kings when I beat Cetra.
Hmm.
Uh, I only had like some Prometheans, I didn't have a lot of late game stuff. I had a couple depth guard pole arms, like just because I happened to go through a province where a great battle had happened,
Right.
and like I said, I was up on a hill. I had the terrain to my advantage. I had Queen Bess. I had mortars, but he had chariots. And it didn't matter, how many zombies I threw under the wheels of those chariots.
Mhm.
They just went through them like they were tissue paper.
Yeah.
And I got surrounded very fast. And I ended up surviving like Noctilus and I think the Necrofex Colossus and maybe like one of my heroes survived. Like I lost almost every unit
Yeah.
in that fight, and I mean it was pretty, wasn't as epic as yours because it was only one army. I was just surprised, fighting those like Tomb Guard, I think they're called.
Yeah.
They just, they fight to the very end, and they can take a hell of a lot of punishment, and they
Mhm.
also do a lot more damage than like anything yours does in melee
Well,
almost.
yeah, I think they're, like, pretty comparable to Depth Guard, but they have a way higher model count.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
he brought a lot of them, and it didn't
Mhm.
seem a lot at first, but like even their archers, they just refused to disintegrate. I
Yeah.
don't know what was going on. Like I wiped out all of them, but like there'd be like 10 of them left, and they'd still be plucking away, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're in a battle that's that close, like
Mhm.
as long as they're firing, they're still doing damage to you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's at the very least a leadership penalty.
Yeah, leadership penalty,
Yeah.
and uh, going when you run out of winds of magic, it's not a good feeling when you can't rely on the invocation anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Like, once you yeah, I was gonna bring that up when we were talking about magic, like, you have to have, like, Arcane Conduit as soon as possible, because like, an overcasted Wind of Death is, like, 27 or 28 winds,
Hmm.
and, like, Invocation by itself, like, fully upgraded is pretty cheap, I think it's, like, 6, but, like, trying to keep a 20 stack healthy with that is pretty rough because 'cause you're gonna have to be, like, overcasting, you want it, like, going every which way, so, yeah, you burn through your winds pretty quick, and once it's out, it's a pretty big blow, like, there's not a whole lot of recovering.
Mm. I also found myself thinking about the next battle while I was in the middle of like a battle.
Yeah.
I was trying to heal the units that I thought most deserved it, like
Mhm.
because sometimes you just drop it on like the big clump of empty health bars.
Right.
Other times you're like, okay, gotta preserve the Prometheans,
Yeah.
and it was kind of fun at the end of the battle when the enemy's running away. I'd get like the injured depth guard all together next to the Colossus and just
Yeah.
drop as many as I could on top of them
Mhm.
before the battle ended. Uh, so did you? Was there? How? So did you actually finish the Mortal Empires campaign? I can't imagine you did because there's so many enemies that you have to face, right?
Finish as in, like, long campaign victory or finish as
Yeah,
yeah, no, like, long campaign victory is ridiculous. You have
yeah.
to, destroy Reichland and, Bretonia,
Mm,
and you also have to destroy Sylvania and hold the pro
damn. Well, at least
and
that's
I
kind of, huh?
yeah, I was like, "I'm not going that far inland," like,
Oh,
Sylvania is, like, far east, surrounded by mountains and the Empire, and I was just like, "Why am I tasked with taking this out?"
yeah, right. I mean, you can kind of follow the river up, by Altdorf and get in there.
Yeah, but it also, um, requires you to go across land, like, a still a good bit because the river kind of ends right next, like, right past the province that Altdorf is in.
Yeah, it's like ends in Midland or somewhere around there.
Yeah, so you only get about halfway, and even there, like, you're surrounded by Empire,
Yeah, not a good
and
place to be.
yeah, current state of the game, like, Order Tide is crazy strong, and like we said, the Vampire Coast isn't made for, like, just taking a battle to, like, 2 stacks of Empire, like, it's a hit and run, like, you need to choose your matchups, and Lightning Strike is very important because yeah, you're just not meant to stand up to it. So,
Hmm.
like, destroying them, I was like, "Yeah, screw that," because it'd be such a headache to try and take out the entirety of them and take all that land when it's I don't know, basically useless for what I wanted the campaign to be.
Yeah, is there like a short-term victory condition on Mortal Empires or?
There is, but it's fairly similar. I believe you still have to take out Sylvania, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like yeah, I just wanted to like have a little bit of territory. Like sort of like pirate home bases. Just
Yeah,
raid.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and then like just raid and pillage from there, and that's pretty much what I did.
Uh, what else can you tell me about your campaign? Because I mean, there really wasn't like it's very hard to describe. I mean, a lot of it was just, sailing around the ocean, which was enjoyable. I
Yeah.
mean, looking for those opportunities, backstabbing or starting a bunch of wars, screwing
Mhm.
over the AI was really fun. Uh, I think
Yeah,
it's
it's a lot of fun. It's just like it's pretty easy to sum it up because it's just raiding and establishing pirate coves. It's what makes the campaign fun, but it's not that expansive.
No, I mean I did enjoy like if I went back to Mortal Empires and
Mhm.
kind of played the way I had in this Vortex campaign, I definitely would enjoy it more. Just knowing like I still don't think I would try and get tied down until way later.
Yeah.
Like just focus on the I think I would still kind of plan out for Ulthuan to be like the ultimate pirate base
Yeah.
and like drop those corruption taverns
Mhm.
everywhere I could on Ulthuan while I'm creating the economic ones elsewhere. Uh, that way, even if they get invaded, everybody's just hurting because there's no other
Mhm.
vampires other than Sartosa that might come over.
Yeah.
It's like we discussed. It's pretty easy. I mean, for the most part, to take on other Vampire Coast factions, especially if you've got like Queen Bess, the red artillery pieces.
Mhm.
Granted, they could bring the same against you, but usually they don't tend to bring more than like one Necrofex Colossus and maybe like one Leviathan. Most
I don't know. I find Luther Harkin's AI likes to spam.
Oh yeah, Luther. Yeah, I became a military ally with him
Yeah.
actually. I'm an ally with Sartosa, Luther. Uh, they're both fairly powerful in their own right. Like Luther has
Mhm.
been battling it out with Teclis down in Lustria for a while now.
Yeah.
I can't see Clan Pestilence. I know they're there just because of all the abandoned cities.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, looks like damn, even Cult of Pleasure has a bunch of territory in Lustria. But it's like
Yeah.
this hodgepodge. I didn't really go deep into it, like at all. Uh, it's a free
Into
for all.
Lestria?
Yeah, like it's like a free for all over there.
Yeah. I mean, it usually ends up being that, and then the lizardmen eventually win.
Yeah, the lizardmen aren't really getting anywhere though,
Mhm.
surprisingly.
Oh,
Looks
that's
like
weird.
Itza is hanging in there, but they've been confederated by Hexawaddle,
Yeah.
and Hexawaddle is not really hasn't really made much of a dent,
No.
outside of its starting area.
Hmm.
Kind of the first time I saw the lizardmen. I mean, usually I don't even see Luther do this well, honestly. I mean, whenever I'm up against him, he seems to, you know, like you said, stacks those Necrofex Colossi. But
Yeah.
yeah, Hmm.
Yeah, usually for me, he's like a bitch to actually take on, but he just kind of holds the vampire host, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm still in the process of taking Ulthuan. Like
Mhm.
I've got two armies on there, kind of slowly making my way inland. I haven't quite taken Lothern yet. I probably could in like a turn or two, honestly.
Yeah.
I just I think I got kind of burnt out just over the past couple days. Like I
Yeah.
didn't have the time that I wanted to. I mean I still had enough time to like
Mhm.
last week I did like the two Mortal Empires campaigns.
Yeah.
And I just kind of got upset with myself whenever I got bogged down in the empire building because I was like this
Mhm.
is not what I should be doing. I should be out there having fun
Mhm.
uh with my vampire friends.
Yeah,
Uh,
and 300 turns as anyone is pretty tiring. Like I played about that as Malice last time, and at the end I was like, I do not want to see another dark elf.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel. I mean, I still love the Vampire Coast. The units
Mhm.
are great. I,
Yeah.
I once you understand how to use them, like I said, I really like the Sirens. The Prometheans are fucking awesome
Mhm.
for holding it down. Uh, one of my campaigns, I did just make a Doom stack, a Necrofex Colossi, and it is quite entertaining to have 20 of those fucking things.
Yeah.
Just in a line. There's nothing the AI can do to you, really.
Mhm.
Uh,
I just imagine being like an Empire swordsman or something like that. Like, all right, guys, we're fighting 20 fucking boats.
20 boats. It's just crazy. You'd see the silhouettes off at the distance, and then you'd probably hear the sound of the gunshot before it hits you.
Yeah.
And just like, uh, it's entertaining.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So let's talk about the quest battle, because I
Mhm.
think we're there. The moon dial. So we didn't mention before. Yeah, I totally forgot. We're all jacked up here tonight, and it's all my fault. I'm sorry, Archer. Just blame me.
Oh, it's all good.
Uh, we're talking about what's his name, Ross. The
Roth's Moondao, is that what you're talking about?
yeah, the Grand Alliance.
Mhm. Oh,
So
yeah, you wanna go into that whole debacle?
yeah, we'll kind of skim through it because, like we said, there's not a whole lot of lore here. Uh, but
Mhm.
once Count Noctilus transposed his castle to the Galleon's graveyard, eventually he started raiding around. And
Mhm.
at this time, there was another pirate lord, or at least a pirate captain. His name was God damn it,
Captain Jago Roth.
Jago Roth. Jago Roth. It just sounds so ridiculous. That's great. It could definitely be in a movie. So Jago Roth was a pirate from Sartosa,
Mhm.
and he came back. He wanted to settle down with his family, and Count Noctilus had sacked the city, and so this pissed him off. He formed this grand alliance of high elves. I think
Yeah, there was one, ship, yeah.
yeah, he appealed to the Empire, and I think the Empire kind of just brushed him off. He might have gotten a ship from there.
He stole, like, the Heldenhammer, which was
Oh, the
their
Heldenhammer. Yeah,
yeah,
that is sort of in the game. It's the special building that you can build in the
the
Galleon's
not
graveyard.
yeah, for the Necrofex, yeah. Yeah, it's like their the Grand Theogenes, ship, which, if you're unfamiliar, is the, cult of Sigmar, which is the warrior god of, the Empire, so it's basically, like, the flagship of the Empire's fleet.
Yeah, it says it has hundreds of cannons, so it's a lot of firepower.
It's a big ship.
Yeah, it basically sounds like a Black Ark, honestly.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
so Jago Roth forms this alliance of other captains, and the only way to get to the Galleon's graveyard is through this device called the Moon Dial. Just because this graveyard is like the nexus of like all this, the winds of magic, all the undead in the sea, or the dead in the sea, kind of wash up there.
Mhm.
It's kind of like I mean, you can look in the map. It's like a toilet just being flushed constantly there.
Yeah.
uh, all things end up in the Galleon's graveyard.
Mhm.
I honestly wish like the terrain around it changed as you grew it, because the whole time you're upgrading the Maelstrom, it goes from like dormant, stirring, all the way up to raging.
Yeah.
So implying that there's like a great, vortex of your own there. And I just wish there was a more of a visual cue, because uh, it sounds kind of cool. It's not your usual city that you're building. Uh,
Yeah, like, even if the stock one that is there, like, the whole time was, like, the big one, and it just started out as, like, tiny whirlpool, it'd be cool.
yeah, or maybe there'd be a constant storm kind of going overhead. It
Yeah,
does look
that's
like
true.
there's a little bit, but I don't know.
Mhm.
I think it's a great place for your secret lair to be, because
Yeah.
you're not supposed to be able to get there without the moon dial. And so at one point, Jago Roth gets his Grand Alliance together, sails into the Galleon's graveyard, and according to Games Workshop and not according to Creative Assembly, he sails in there, and I think he dies in the process, but he does take out Count Noctilus.
Yeah.
Uh, but in Total War's version of the events, there's a big showdown, and neither you nor Jago Roth end up winning. Neither of you end up dying, but it's kind of a stalemate. and his Grand Alliance kind of fails after his ship, the Heldenhammer, sinks,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like the final. That's like the capstone of your entire your building process in the Galleon's
Mhm.
Graveyard. Because once you get that, you get the Necrofex Colossi. All armies do extra missile damage. The recruitment cost for artillery goes down for all armies. The recruit rank goes up for all artillery. It's a lot of special effects that have to do with, all things Necrofex Colossus and artillery. Kind of a nice building to, you know, kind of. It's a long process building up the Maelstrom. It's not fast because
Yeah.
you can only do one building with growth. The wharf or the docks provide a little bit, but it takes a long time to get that
Mhm.
up to level 5.
Yeah, I found, like, getting it to level 3 was the hardest part, and it went pretty easy after that, but growth is a big thing, both for the Galleon's Graveyard itself and also the ships.
Yeah, building up the ships, your first one kind of, once you get going, it does start to stack pretty fast once you get the anchor going and upgrading. But when you hire another vampire captain, you've got a pretty basic ship that doesn't go anywhere for like
Mhm.
20 something turns
Yeah.
just to get, one population surplus.
Yeah, like, my first, ship that I got, after Count Noctilus, obviously, which was probably, like, turn 20 or 40, like, I actually got it pretty early. I kinda sacrificed the infamy for it, but, um, I it's still not even, like, a level 5. And I'm at turn almost 200 with a growth building. Like, it takes a long time to, and this is like a army that's been constantly fighting because chaos pours in right by the island where it sits.
I wish if you played the Beastmen at all, I think it's the same on the Chaos. If you choose to raise a city, you can choose between either money or growth.
Mhm.
I think it would be nice if you could, if raising a city as well as giving you infamy, maybe give you just a couple, or maybe like a couple points of, population bonus, like towards your growth. Like,
Yeah.
I think it would, nothing to overpower. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want every ship to be as powerful as the Bloody Reaver, but
Yeah. Or even if
yeah.
it's like a couple of turns, so you like keep constantly doing it.
Mm.
Like even if it was just like, yeah, like a 5-10 turn thing, just to give you like a little bit of extra growth. But yeah, it's a process.
So what do you think this campaign is definitely? I mean, I like to say all the campaigns are different, but this is why I wanted to do a podcast on Total War Warhammer.
Yeah.
Every faction leader is different from the other, starting location, their bonuses,
Troops,
w-
movement.
everything.
Yeah.
What do you think this campaign does unique, that kind of makes it s- stand out from the rest? What, in your own words, what did you really love about it?
The best part of the campaign for me was definitely like the actual pirating. Like when I had a sort of home territory or a couple and was able to just like go and sack a city and like fuck off before like Lou and the Encore could like respond and come and take it out was really immersive for me, but also just a lot of fun just to like run up and basically just smack Bretonia or like the High Elves, like take a bunch of money, like raid and like leave before anyone can stop me. Essentially, it made it like unique to the Vampire Coast, but also, um, yeah, it is a little bit different from the rest, just because you do have the Galleon's Graveyard, um, and you can pretty much count on always having a home base that no one's gonna take.
Yeah, I like definitely the if anybody lands there, they're immediately taking attrition. And I think
Mhm.
even before they get there, if you set there's a commandment where it increases vampirism to the territory, which isn't really necessary,
Yeah.
but it actually also slows down campaign movement range by 20% from enemy armies starting in that region.
Mhm.
So as soon as you see somebody like get close, you activate that. Maybe you even hit the right of a sea mist to if you're really desperate.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult for the AI to get to you at your so you don't really need a like a separate garrison army, because the
Yeah.
garrison it has is number one pretty decent. It's not perfect, but the campaign map is in your favor even if it doesn't have walls.
Mhm.
uh, it's just not likely to you know, you're not likely to lose it. I never
Yeah.
really felt threatened.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially when like the AI tends to like siege for extended periods. Like they'll just sit there and take attrition, like you were saying, before they'll actually like make an attack.
and then they might even leave at like in this weird vicious circle where they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we took too many casualties. Just get a couple here for 5 turns and then go back and do the same thing."
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, so what I loved about it was, I mean, you talked about freedom with Malice Darkblade,
Mhm.
and there's freedom to an extent, and I guess it's similar in this. Like, you're not really building an empire. It's not encouraging you to. You're building kind of a syndicate of different coves that all add up to increased bonuses of
Mhm.
research and you know your trade. Y- You can everywhere you go, you're looking for opportunity. It's all about that money, you know. And I did like that as well. My main focus between became how high can I get, like, that feeling of seeing my gold just pile up at a
Yeah.
certain point, because
Yeah.
you can spec Noctilus to make a ton of money from sacking, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what I did.
Yeah.
It's You make ridiculous amounts of money off of sieging cities, which the Vampire Coast is absurdly like they're like you think the gates that protect Ulthuan are going to save them, and it doesn't, because
Yeah.
like you want the enemy to be sitting in a town.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Because
makes it easy.
and I mentioned before, there would be battles if you were facing like a human character, you'd be like, all right, I'm just gonna charge out. That's my best option.
Yeah.
But the AI never seems to do that. They sit back, they're very passive, and if you don't really have to run out of ammo. You get your gunnery wight can keep stacking ammo into the Queen Bess or
Mhm.
mortars or whatever you want.
Yeah.
And
Stacking necrofaxes.
yeah, I like that's what I really figured out. Like, avoid fighting, more than one army at a time.
Yeah.
Go after cities because that's what they seem crafted for. Besieging a settlement has never been so easy, honestly. Like, you don't wait around for towers, you don't wait around for the rams. You just knock out the towers with your colossus or cannons, and then drop mortars,
Yeah.
and rinse and repeat on every city you find.
Mhm.
Uh, and it was very fun to spread the corruption. Like you talked about painting the map, your color. I actually like to see those physical effects like
Yeah.
manifest. Uh, that's quite satisfying.
Just get
Leaving, but
vampiric corruption everywhere.
yeah, watching Alta One slowly become more unstable as like all the vampire taverns were being constructed, and
Yeah.
like they were dealing with a couple of rebellions at one point just because I got the corruption high enough, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I just like fucking with them.
I mean, yeah, that's what the campaign kind of ends up being. Like, you're not going to be the number one power. Um, you're you're just an asshole.
No, you're definitely not the number one power, but you're also untouchable.
Yeah,
Well, like
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if I can see my own strength rating. Let's see.
If you go into diplomacy, I think I was like 6 at my best.
Yeah, I'm at 9, and I don't
Yeah.
feel like 9. I mean, I'm definitely outnumbered, but
Yeah.
I'm always fighting on my terms.
Yeah.
And I've seen, Tyrion, his strength rating drop by many points after
Mhm.
me just going after a couple targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I think the AI thinks it's safe, like it'll fast march army into a city, thinking that's not gonna like because the odds are so much in its favor as far as it's
Mhm.
calculated, and you're
Yeah.
just like, oh no, you're all good. You're all gonna get it, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
easy. I'm gonna take 0 casualties, and you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
let's see. So we kind of missed out on the quest battle.
Mhm.
The moon dial. There's not much to say about that quest battle other than you're basically assaulting like a mountaintop almost. I mean, it's a hill really, but it's got cliffs, and they get a couple of rocket batteries sitting on top.
Yeah.
And it was a kind of cool you know, you have to advance like up the hill, and there's really not much to it honestly with a late game army. You just kind of press
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, like it was fun. But with like that hill, which is really cool, and I would love to defend. Like I want to play as the Empire because
Mm.
I think that'd be super fun. But the issue was like Queen Bess can fire like onto that hill. So yeah, like everything on that hill, which is basically just like I think they put like an Empire captain and 2 rocket batteries up there for me. And like yeah, my artillery was better than theirs and was able to take that out pretty quick. So it kind of made that point null and void. And at that point, it's just a bunch of swordsmen running straight into my gun line.
Yeah, it's the quest battle's really just playing to your strengths, honestly.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. It's not like Malice's um,
oh god, no,
Vortex one on the stupid ramps.
it's fucking ramps, man.
It's yeah, it's fairly easy, honestly, just for where the game sets you up at.
It kind of makes me wish there was more interesting geography, like in just your regular campaign battles.
Yeah.
Like if you're defending, like I like how sometimes you get like the canyons or you get the gaps that you get to protect, but being on a
Mhm.
hilltop would make sense. Like if you're encamped, like you would probably park your army on top of a good piece of terrain.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
um, see what the moon dial gives you even more campaign movement range, even
Yep.
more line of sight, which you probably have a considerable amount.
Yeah.
And you get the Captain Roth's moon dial ability, which just summons a zombie pirate deckhands mob,
Mhm.
which,
It's quite useful, to be honest. Like the ability to just like tie up someone, like which is what they're for, but um, yeah, just spawning it like in front. Like I usually use one at the beginning of a battle just to like throw one in the front to use as cannon fodder, and that way I do like literally no damage to my actual troops.
wow. Yeah, I mean, I just unlocked the ability basically.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, yeah.
but yeah, that actually sounds very viable and yeah, smart moves, man. Just like a wet, soggy sponge absorb the charge.
Gross.
Hey,
My moist troops.
they're all aquatic, you know, sticky. They smell. The vampire captains are kind of hot, but yeah, some of them have stuff growing off of them. But
Wait, hot? I like.
maybe I have a visual mod going on. Yeah, I don't know. She looks good to me.
I think that is a visual mod because mine look like decaying. They look like zombies. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah, it must be my visual mod because I have
Yeah.
like better looking like elf officers, and I guess that falls under it or something.
Oh, I see. I wonder if it uses like the same mapping or something like that. Weird.
Yeah,
Just get
yeah.
hot. Fucking vampire.
I mean, if you've seen what I was looking at for the past like 31 turns, maybe that's what I've lost all sanity.
You played too much
I,
Noctilus, and now the gunnery whites are cute.
well, there's a thing in the military called deployment hot. Have you ever heard of this?
No, I haven't.
It's like it's like you go on deployment and the pool of availability is so small. Eventually, it's like drunk goggles, except deployment goggles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have the scurvy, and that's it's affected my brain.
I see.
Um, was there anything that you didn't like about this campaign?
Um, not. particularly. Like there wasn't anything where I was like, "That's stupid." Like it wasn't like so hard that it was frustrating. Like I found with Marcus Wolfhart. The only thing that isn't like super clear is like there's not a whole lot of direction. It really is just kind of figure it out. And once you do, it's a lot of fun, but it is literally pretty much dropping you in the galleon's graveyard and like do what you want.
Well, that was the one thing I didn't. The only complaint I have is the Vortex campaign. It immediately tries to get you to colonize Ulthuan,
Yeah.
and it's pushing you hard. There's treasure. It's giving you money to occupy, and I'm like, why should the first mission be occupy? Like it should be
Mhm.
sack Val's Anvil,
Yeah.
and that should be your first like big mission.
Yeah.
Like don't occupy it, just sack it, or establish a cove in like even using your vampire captain, like establish a
Yeah.
cove in Lothern, like
Yeah.
that could be a mission.
Yeah. Easy.
Just to kind of teach the player, because like I said, I'm not the most intuitive person, and I kept falling into the trap of like building like you think you're just gonna take maybe one coastal town. Like I just wanted to take Sartosa in Mortal Empires, but
Mhm.
now the border princes want a piece of me. Now I'm
Right.
dragged out to that fight, and
Yeah.
I'm going places I don't really want to,
Mhm.
or I'm just getting tied down there until I can build up the defenses. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be tied down as this faction. I like sailing around, especially once you get your campaign movement up. Uh, but at first, it's a slow going just because you got the whole wide ocean and the
Mhm.
whole world basically that you're just lost in the middle of.
Yeah.
So you just gotta have that attitude. You take the opportunities as you see them. You have short-term plans and some long-term plans with the coves that provide you 50% income. But there's not really much to dislike other than the direction it pushes you in Vortex and maybe getting used to the tactics because it's a very artillery focused faction
Yeah.
with some beasts mixed in that also have a focus on ranged. It's very bizarre when you think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said,
It,
they
mhm.
flamethrower Gundams, rocket launcher
Yeah.
Gundams.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of a learning curve for sure. A little bit different.
The depth guard were hard to find a use for. It's not obvious how you should use sirens or the I guess the deck droppers like the airborne units. It's
Mhm.
really a playground, being all about being a pirate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Some of
what
the
would?
units. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say some of the units just kind of feel like what would be dope for like an undead pirate, and then they're just like fucking zombies with giant bats. Like that would be dope. So
Uh, yeah, they went all out on this faction. There's a lot of love put into these units. I mean, everything has oozes personality.
mhm.
The names, the descriptions, the character traits that you unlock. Some of the technologies are funny. You also have offices, fleet
Mhm.
offices that you can assign people to for different bonuses, and
Yeah.
that's pretty cool too. I didn't start using it until late game, but still very useful for bringing down upkeep and
Yeah, they're good
incre-
bonuses, but like I didn't have that many armies.
I started to pump out those captains in the very late game. I think that's
Yeah.
where all my infamy went to, and I didn't mean for that to happen. I just kind of didn't want to have to deal with the what do you call it? The loyalty. I
Right.
wanted some lords to increase growth and stick in those offices.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the same thing. Just because the loyalty works a little bit differently than Dark Elves and Skaven.
They're very
Because with
conditional.
yeah, they like everyone is like, I get loyalty from this. And it's nice that it lays it out for you, but it's some of them are really hard. It's like you gotta be consistently establishing pirate coves to keep this one lord happy. And I'm like, well, screw that. I'm gonna take this guy that doesn't falter because I can't constantly do that with you. Like I can't guarantee that you're always gonna be doing that.
And there's one that likes ambushes and lightning strikes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how often does that happen? Like, especially when you're level 1.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're not gonna get that for forever anyway. Like your
Mm,
ambush chance and lightning strike are pretty far off.
yeah. Uh, I guess the Dreadfleet doesn't really emerge until way later in the game. I mean, I could definitely see this becoming. I don't know. I'm happy to leave things off where I am. Like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
I'm
same.
I'm burnt out on pirates,
Yeah.
but it was a great adventure. You know, uh,
How far can we go inland next week?
how far? Oh man, well, let's just finish up with because I'm so over it. I just
Mhm.
I'm good, man.
Okay,
It was
cool.
a good time though. It was
Yeah.
a great time.
Mhm.
Let's see. So what makes Count Noctilus so renowned and so feared?
So renowned, so good. Well, he is
Yeah.
captain of the Dreadfleet. That's a pretty big deal. It's pretty much his renown there. Like being a von Karstein, like he's already a very famous, successful backstabber and raiser of the dead. He's a super accomplished necromancer, and then he just decides to put his fucking castle in the middle of the ocean because why the hell not?
Not only in the middle of the ocean, but in the maelstrom where the winds of magic kind of conflagrate. I, I don't know how to. It's the nexus of
Yes.
the dead and the winds of magic.
Yeah. And feared because same reason. Like it's really hard to answer that because it's kind of the same thing. Like, and it's so apparently obvious with Noctis. Like he's already done everything before the story even starts. Like he's already made his big accomplishment. He's already like inspired the ire of someone like Roth, who like assembles the other pirate lords to try and take him down.
Yeah, he assembles a team or a league uh, to go basically into the heart of this like hurricane
Yeah.
almost. Be a great movie scene all on its own. I mean, just not that there's much lore to it, but I mean, as far as like a simple, 2 hour movie, I
Yeah.
mean, show
Suicide Squad Part 2.
yeah, exactly. One that is watchable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like definitely the thing that makes him feared, I would say, is nobody knows where he's going to strike next because I don't think he even knows much.
Yeah.
You which direction? Where are we going to, Captain? And he's just
Yeah.
like that way. Like
Mhm.
uh, I I definitely had that. I like the smaller scale. It was weird because often a lot happens on the small scale, and but you affect the wider scheme of things.
Yeah.
Like corrupting Oath One, I could watch the long-term effects of that.
Right.
Just creating pirate coves means you have line of sight on all these ports, and you're watching a lot of the events of the world unfold from those
Mhm.
little windows.
Yeah.
And it's interesting just to watch the AI sometimes and to see what's going on, and all the
Mhm.
randomness that happens in a campaign.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be right under their noses.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you just kind of like watch them go about their.
And you can come back to a city and sack it, and you don't lose
Mhm.
anything. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. Yeah, no, it gives you like a good line of sight to be like, okay, this is open and I'm like decently close.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me the loot. It's all about the loot.
Actually,
Uh,
yeah, that's I don't even know how much money I ended up with, but like my actual like turn revenue is pretty low, but I
mm,
have more money than I ever have in any other campaign.
yeah, same here. I ended up with a ridiculous amount. I was just buying stuff just to buy it,
Mhm.
just because
Yeah.
it's. Yeah, I'm actually losing money a turn, just a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because you end up like sacking and getting so much money from that.
And it's like, oh, there's 16 grand right there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's super easy.
Mm. Uh, so I'd say this about concludes my poorly planned and hastily constructed episode of Count Noctilus or Captain King of the Dreadfleet. I don't know. Who am I?
That guy.
That guy. Uh, uh, I would recommend this this faction. Definitely maybe not new players, but definitely people who've been playing probably order factions or it's another one of those change ups. Although we've been specifically picking factions that are definitely probably on the fringes of what you could consider normal in this game. Just you know, if anything about being a pirate sounds fun, Count Noctilus, go with him. Don't go with Luther Harkon. Be a Chad and be a Count Noctilus.
Chad.
He's like the Legion of Doom out there in yeah. I don't know. He's got the outfit. He's got the hat. He's got the secret base.
He's got the Necrofex Colossus.
He's got the Necrofex. He's got the Gundam. He's got everything
now. No, it's a really good campaign for someone who's like a change of pace. It was really nice for me.
Archer, thank you for being so patient with me today.
No worries.
Because I was very, very late.
It's all good.
My poor wife had to come wake me up and basically shake me because I think I heard like the alarm go off in my headphones and I just pulled them out. I have a vague memory of it going off and I was just like, no. Before I end this episode, if you'd like, please subscribe to us, leave us a like. Hopefully I'll get off my ass and put this on. I had a commenter. We had a real comment asking. Yeah, thanks, man.
We made it.
We made it. Asking me what other formats this is on, probably because they don't listen to YouTube like I do. As my new podcast thing. Joe Rogan's on it, so everybody else went on there. I'll get off my ass and get on that. Please leave a like, please share, all that stuff. It means a lot to us. I feel even worse than I did when we put out that Malice campaign. I was so out of it by the end of it, but I listened back to it and I kind of enjoyed it. I thought we did Did you listen back to it? Maybe I'm just
the Malice one? Not as much as I did the Marcus one, because I was very self-conscious of the Marcus one, because I was like, I probably sound like I hated this campaign.
No, you didn't. But I think we did a really good job on the Malice one. I know I'm just patting ourselves on the back here, but I mean,
that was my favorite one so far, I think.
Yeah, if I didn't have my mental breakdown and all that happened, I probably would like this one more. But I'd still honestly give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'd do it again. Probably a Sartosa. I kind of want to. I think Sartosa's gets a unique starting position. I wouldn't mind trying to juggle. So yeah, that's Renowned and Feared, everybody. If you'd like to stick around for the post show, the outro music is gonna roll, and you can hear me and Archer discuss what we're gonna do over the next fortnight. My favorite word.
I was waiting for it.
Also, real quick, I'd like to say I love you, Joey. Rest in peace. You're a brother that I didn't know well enough, and the world is gonna miss you. The world lost something it's never gonna get back, and we all miss you, man. Anyway, everybody have a good night, and stick around for the post show if you want it. All right, man.
Like stretches.
Yeah. I'm just gonna grab a soda real quick.
Yeah, I'll be
You doing okay?
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Hey, I'm sorry, man. I ended up, like I said, it's been a tough couple days.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I can't blame you for that at all.
Yeah, and then this mad dash to try and finish. I'm not gonna lie. was upset with myself for not completing the Vortex campaign. I feel like I cheated you,
No, that's
a
okay.
bit. Yeah.
No, you said you weren't planning on playing it. I wasn't planning on playing it, so not a big deal.
But it was a great recommendation by you. I commend you for picking another one that I did. I enjoyed it to the point of where I played it so much I killed it for myself.
Yeah, like it's really fun to raid, but eventually I'm just like, okay, like there's only so much you can do before you just this is gonna be like the same thing for several hundred turns.
Yeah, I mean I can see how it might evolve though, even until the end game.
Mm-hmm.
Just as accumulate more power, and I just yeah, now that we're doing this thing every 2 weeks, it's hard for me to. I mean, honestly, I never even stuck with any campaign this long, so
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna complain. I mean, I finished at least 2 campaigns since we started doing this, so
Mhm.
that's a step in the right direction for me.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Uh, but everything going good with you, you and your girlfriend and your family and stuff like that. Everybody's healthy and everything.
Yeah, no cases, no scares. It's been pretty chill. I mean, like everyone's just sort of self-isolating, so
Yeah.
not a whole lot going on.
Mm. So, do you want me to maybe throw out some options out there?
Sure. Yeah, I've got a couple of like things I might want to do, but yeah, whatever you
Okay,
think of.
give me yours because you're actually on a roll here. I've
I'm
been.
on a roll. Well, no, we've gone back and forth so far. I did Marcus, you did Malice, and then I did Count Noctilus. Technically, it's your turn.
That's true. I mean, I still want. You still reserve the right to veto. Like say I picked, you know, I don't know, somebody, and you just don't feel burnt out on whoever it is. You can always veto it. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal. Uh, like part of me wants to do Skaven, but I don't know if I'm ready yet. Like for some reason, at some point, I had a burning desire to try Lizardmen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if like which one you would recommend or what you had. Honestly, I'd like to hear your suggestions because my mind is like just like a just puddle of jello right now.
To play Lizardman next?
No, no, no. What were you thinking in general? Because
I was thinking in general, Britonia or dwarves, just because we haven't really gone into those areas yet.
I'm actually I was just looking at Reponse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's what you were thinking, or I would be down with dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've always wanted to do Alberic de Bordello,
Mm-hmm.
or let's see, Carrick Cadrin. Which one of the dwarves would you pick? I
Any of them, but Grombrindle, just because CA is talking about moving his start location because it's the same as Thorgrim Grudgebearer.
hmm,
So any of them. I haven't played a huge amount of dwarves,
okay.
but yeah.
Which one are you feeling more, Bretonia or dwarves?
I've played very little Britonia, so like if you want to play Alberic, I'd be down to do that.
Hmm. Let me think before I commit to this because I
Okay.
don't want to be mad with myself here.
Yeah, if you want to play like Rapunzel or Lism, I'm down for either of
Mhm. Let's see. You said you're down for Lizardman?
Yeah, if you want to play them.
Okay, yeah. I want something that's available on the Vortex campaign, honestly, right now.
Okay, yep.
Uh, let me see.
I think they're all available.
Yeah, no, well, Rapunzel is the only Bretonian one, and there are
Oh,
no,
right, yeah.
there's no dwarves on. I do want to do
Oh,
that,
yeah, okay.
actually. Let's see. We're still in the picking phase. If we did Lizardman, which one would you want?
I'm just trying to think. I've played I played Tehenoan fairly like a couple weeks before we started this whole thing, so I could do it again, but I would rather not. So that kind of writes off like Eats as well. Basically
Oh
the
yeah,
same start position.
I gotcha. Gotcha. Last Defenders is kind of in the area of Malice.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just spent like 100 turns fighting that fucker. So just kidding. Krokar's like my favorite.
Yeah, Krokar seems pretty badass.
He's a fucking beast. Once you get him leveled up, he's so fun.
Is he?
So it's pretty much like Nakai or Tic-Tac-Toe, I think, if you want to do Lizardom.
You'd be open to doing tic-tac-toe. That seems seems out of nowhere. Do I really want to do tic-tac-toe right now? See, now that I have the option, I'm gonna like drag it out and be like, do I want him?
I think his Vortex start is kind of weird, actually. I don't.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I've started it once before. I kind of like it. Like,
Okay.
It's in an interesting spot. I'm not committing to anything yet. I know you want me to make up my mind, but I'm just...
No, it's not. No, I'm just. I'm gonna pull up the game and check where. I know he starts in Mortal Empires, like fairly similar to Rapunzel, just south. Yeah. I'm just gonna double check on actual start location or on his Vortex.
Let's see.
Because Krokar's a lot of fun on Vortex, but yeah, same kind of thing. It'd basically be Malice again.
See. Cricket, man. Let's do Bretonia, Bordello. You down with that?
Yeah. You sure you want to play Mortal Empires?
Well, from what I remember, that campaign basically ends, like the short term kind of ends whenever you achieve what is it? Maximum honor, or what is it?
Chivalry.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, I think I could do some Bordello. They
got
nice. They're like kind of in between everything, so I think that'd be kind of an interesting thing to talk about.
Like in between, like the whole map, you mean?
Yeah, they get Ulth 1 that you can trade with. You get the other, I guess, barons or whatever around you. You get the orcs nearby. What's his name? Not Krell. Heinrich Kemmler nearby. Yeah. I think that'd be a good plan.
Okay.
Rapunzel is kind of hot in her own way.
I cannot do it with her voice for some reason.
Oh, you don't like her voice? Well, I can't. It's been a while since I've played as her.
Just every time you click on her, it's like, I'm not even gonna attempt it, but she's just like, for the lady, and I'm like, oh my god.
I don't like the Fey Enchantress's voice, although she does seem kind of powerful. Just, I don't know, not for me.
Yeah, she's like, I think I've never played as her, but I think she's like a super powerful spellcaster.
Yeah, I'd rather play as Alberic. I like him better than Luan Longcore. Something about him. I think he's like, I don't know why I don't like him. There's something about his personality that I'm picking up that I don't like.
Luan's a lot easier though, because he's one-man army.
Oh.
Because yeah, he's like infamous for being a bloody tank.
I see.
No, but yeah, like I said, I've played very little of either of them. Actually, I've never played either of them in Mortal Empires.
Yeah, I'm down to do some Alberic Bordello.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, that settles that. So tomorrow, I'll probably try to upload this to YouTube. I'm not putting this on you, but if you want to look up or create an account on like I don't know, what do people put podcasts on? Audacity,
Spotify. I think that's what I usually listen to. I looked it up, and the only issue is like the file has to be 200 minutes or less,
Oh,
and it has to be like under 200 megabytes, but it also has to be like a certain quality of audio.
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty stringent. So I was like, okay, like I'll check if it'll, but I think we'll have to shave off some time because we usually go like 3.5 hours, which would put us pretty close.
I feel like on iTunes, I've definitely listened to some podcasts that were well into our range.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Let's look into iTunes.
yeah,
Yeah,
I did create an account with iTunes. I think I did. I swear I did, but I don't know if the your iTunes account is the same as like if you were making something. You know, sometimes those are separate.
yeah. I'm not too sure.
Uh, anyway, all right, man. Uh, I was very excited about doing this. I had a good time, you know,
Hmm.
and I look forward to this every 2 weeks, man. I really do.
Hmm.
I'm just yeah. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
a little sorry. I was late, and you know, it seems like I don't care, but I really did. It was just we had that tragedy, and it's been a little hectic here.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm not like upset or like yeah, I don't know at all.
Well, yeah, I just, I'm just glad you're happy, because as always, it means a lot that we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I look forward to tremendously throughout the weeks, and I think a lot about it. Uh, and yeah, I'm just happy to be doing it, and yeah, glad you're. I'm glad I met you, man.
Glad you posted on Reddit.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, that's that. If always feel free to send me an email, send me a
Hmm.
text, because you have that too if anything comes up.
Sure.
But yeah. Do you have anything else for me?
Nope.
Hmm. I can't wait to listen back to this and like hope to God that I made some sort of sense, man.
I think we made sense. I think it's just like kind of yeah, just bounce a little bit more than we usually do. That's
Yeah,
the
I
deal.
mean, I felt when I was listening to the past podcasts, I felt a little bad because like sometimes I don't know if I'm being too self-critical or something, but I was like, am I being too much of a hard ass? Because sometimes you'd bring up something that I'd want to talk about, and I'd be like, not right now, not right now.
Like hold on.
And
No,
then
I think that's just my personality. Like I just like get excited about something, so I'll start talking about it. And yeah, like you're just trying to keep it into somewhat sorted, so we're not just like constantly bouncing. So it doesn't make any sense.
yeah, I definitely wanted to let go of that a bit and see how that would go. Also, I just
Mhm.
didn't have like the mental capacity. But
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, but I want to listen back and hopefully I don't. I mean, last time I was worried on our Malice podcast, and I was like, I actually found that, I thought we did better on that one than we did the
Mhm.
Marcus one, which I thought I was very lucid for.
Yeah.
Uh, but so yeah, I don't really remember much of what we said. So, I always listen to a podcast at least like once all the way through, and
Hmm.
then sometimes a little bit more, just because I like to think about what we're doing and how I can, you know, I don't know, improve things. I still have that attitude that if we build it, they will come. I
Hmm.
mean, it seems like we got some views. If you log into the account, you can see the analytics.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't. It looks like yeah, pretty decent.
Yeah, and the more we put out, I started to comment on other YouTubers that I've subscribed to on that channel, like other
Hmm.
Warhammer things, and I'm trying to do it in a very classy way,
Yeah,
like yeah, I don't comment unless I have something to genuinely add, like,
yeah.
you
It's
know,
not just like hey, check it out, check it out. Like,
hey, look at me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to be doing that.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, if it, oh, I did get some good news. I am dying to do one of the episodes on the greenskins because I told you I love the way they look, and
Yeah.
and it seems like the rumors that have been going around that they're gonna finally get their fucking update.
Yeah, I think it's been like they've said for a while that it's like, I think everyone's been speculating that it's going to be the high elf slash greenskin duo. But I think it's just getting more serious now because like Grace, who usually comments in it, has been like hint hint nudge nudge at it. So
I don't know what they could add to the High Elves. I'm kind of like, they're like one of the factions that do not need new shit, I feel
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, I think it's more just that they only have 4, where most like main factions are getting up to like 5 or 6.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. But
Cool.
still, give some love to Norska, or I don't know.
Well, I think they're saving like the whole chaos thing for game 3, so
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So
it might be with like end up being with that. I think everything's just gonna get pushed into that because I think this is the last DLC that's coming. The next one.
yeah, especially with the COVID thing, because they're saying
Yeah.
everybody's working from home and it's already put a delay. And I was like,
Mhm.
if I'm an essential worker, fucking get back in there and get me that DLC.
Yeah.
Because someone was speculating Clan Molder maybe might be a free LC, which would be
Oh yeah.
cool. I wouldn't mind seeing that. You know, you don't have to add much to it. You know, maybe maybe a couple new mutant Skaven. Uh, they got a interesting start on Mortal Empires. I think they're up in the northeast.
They're basically where chaos comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I think I don't know. I hope they do that. You know, as a free LC or something. I don't
hmm
know.
Yeah, I think that's the only like thing that's kind of up in the air is like no one knows what the FLC is going to be because it seems kind of random over the last couple of the last couple of ones haven't been like thematic. They've just been kind of random.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody saw a response coming out of there, you know. And I
Yeah,
did kind
exactly.
of, and I was playing a mod that let you play it as the Knights of Arrigo, because I
Oh
wanted
yeah.
to be Bretonia, but like not up there,
hmm
you know. And it's kind of fun being Bretonia on you know, fighting Tomb Kings, especially some of the techs you can get that help you deal with them.
hmm
Mm. But all right, all right, man. I'll let you get on with your night. I'm gonna get to bed soon.
Yeah.
Uh, but thanks again.
No worries.
Yeah, it's always a good time, man.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah. All right. I'll
Talk
talk
to you
to you
later.
later.
Bye.
Bye.